Good morning. What's up, folks? Got those guys behind me. Today I'm doing this from home because yesterday, when I left the studio, I had no internet. I had no internet all day yesterday at the studio. Thank you, Spectrum. We love you when you work. I have that issue here sometimes too, where I've got like a Roku and streaming for my cable for TV, and you'll be watching a movie at like 2 a.m. and all of a sudden just nothing. Oh, there's an outage in your area. But don't forget to send us that $180 next month. So anyways, is what it is. How's it look? Everything working? The sound okay? And everything, you can hear me? Give me a little feedback on that. I'm using a mic that I've had for a long time that I don't use for this kind of thing that often, but it's this guy right here. It's an Audio Technica that's kind of made for this purpose, USB for streaming. And yeah, seems to be okay, right? Sound all right? Let's hope so. So what happened? The video, the neural DSP plugin, the Soldano SLO, and that's all I kind of got done this week because sort of the glare on the glasses too. I know that sucks. Nothing I can do about it, I guess. I gotta get some anti-glare glasses. But yeah, anyways, the plugin sounds amazing, I think. I mean, they're getting so good with that stuff, right? So it's kind of a no-brainer at this point. I mean, it's amazing stuff, And what else we got here? You are looking fully optimized, says J Blues Guitar. Good to see y'all. Good to see y'all. John says killer SLO vid. Yeah, it was fun doing that. I mean, I've got the Gojira one as well. And it's like really good too. And the dark glass preamp for bass. I've been using a lot on bass, and it's pretty amazing on bass guitar. Get a great heavy, clear, but distorted at the same time, blended sound, and I'm really enjoying it. Ben's in the house, my faithful moderator. What's up, Ben Coombs? Don't forget to watch Ben's show. He's up there in Canada. And all right, what else we got here? Braxall, what's up, man? Says, I love your SLO plugin video, but is there a way we can see EQ settings on your patch, or did you share your preset? You can see the EQ, I think, just in the part. Are you talking about the graphic, the 10-band graphic? And during that segment, I kind of go over it, and you can see literally the curve. But I thought about putting the curve up on the screen that I dialed in, but I thought it's so close to flat. I mean, it's just little mid, like sucking out a little bit of low mids and mid mids around 250 and 500. And then around, let me see, I think I was boosting definitely 4K and 8K, but not more than a dB or dB and a half. So, it's minor stuff. So, I don't know what I was doing around 1 or 2K, but I say it in the video. But yeah, I'd be happy to, I don't know, maybe remind me again, I can take a picture or something of it and then share it on, as a post on YouTube post or something. Arthur says, I love the Sgt. Pepper's poster. Yeah, they were selling these a while ago. It's actually like a big print, and I was like, that's too cool. It's actually an alternate cover, which is kind of neat if you're into that sort of thing. I'm a big Sgt. Pepper's fan. And when I was a kid, I used to collect Beatles records, and I'm a big Beatles fan, but Sgt. Pepper's in particular, I would collect different versions, different pressings and stuff. And I have, I think, 5 different colored vinyl picture discs. And I have a German picture disc, which is kind of my favorite album that I own because it's just kind of unique and they're pretty rare. And then I have an American one. And also a marble vinyl, which is really cool. So marble vinyl, Sgt. Pepper's. And then I got a couple other. So when I saw that, I just had to get it. Who's up there in the super chat? It's Dan. What's up, Dan? Thanks, man. He says, just got a PT15 IR this week, and it has far exceeded my already high expectations. That's awesome. How are you using it? Have you been using it direct? Have you been using it into a cabinet? I wonder. Tell us about your experience. I love it too, man. I mean, it's an amazing sounding amp, really. I think. I mean, John just knocked it out of the park. And one of the most fun things about it is the sweet spot of the lower power and then being able to kind of crank it. It's kind of into any, normal volume or whatever, where you would be playing at a gig, or, you're getting into power tube saturation and kind of getting the power section involved. And I love that about it, that it's got that, always that component, the power tubes being involved. And it just makes it sound really sweet. The first CD I ever bought was Sgt. Pepper, says Christopher. You're a little younger than me. What time is it in the States now, says Naive Steve. That's funny. No, I'm not giving you a hard time about your name, but it was funny. It's 11:35 or whatever here, 11:38 a.m. So that'll be 2:38 on the East Coast. And you demo so many great products, says SJ Cortez, but always sound like you. Great tone is in the hands. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just fun making music, plugging stuff in and having fun. I've gotten the new UA pedals. They showed up this week, so I'll be making a video for those pretty soon, as well as what's coming this week. A new something from Origin, so I'm excited about that because it's really great. Furch Guitars, which is a company based in Czechoslovakia. So that's going to be a Guitar World review for Furch. Really impressed by them. They kind of wanted to get on a call with me and show me around the factory virtually. And they're somewhere in Czechoslovakia. So the guy, it took an hour with me or something, kind of showed me around on FaceTime. He was really excited about that aspect of hey, this is where we do this and our history and in that part of the world. And it was endearing, it was really cool that they wanted to have this, they wanted me to understand how the guitars are built and where they come from and stuff. And they've got this really beautiful facility. And so anyways, video for them coming. And what else? The Carl Martin Octa Switch, which is a versatile, 8 loop, maybe more switcher, new version of it. So that's coming as well. More Guitar says up there in the super chat, he has an opportunity to pick up a barely used PV 6505 plus combo for next to nothing. Can this thing produce tones other than the over-the-top distortion? So I used to use a Block Logo 5150 many years ago for doing cover gigs and stuff, and it was actually kind of my main amp. It's the only amp I had, really. Now that I think about it, back then I moved from a boogie rack setup. I had that kind of whole 290 power amp and the Studio Pre and all that stuff, 12 space rack, and I got rid of all that because that was ridiculous when I was poor and had no car and couldn't move anything. So I got a 5150 head and not the matching cabinet. I had some sort of PV Sheffield 412 cabinet. And I used that for gigs for years. And we used to play Bad Company and stuff, and I'd get cool classic rock tones. I always thought and I think this about the SLO too. I think the clean channel with the crunch on is cool. As far as that kind of Marshall flavor. I don't know. It sounds good to me for that crunch thing. And depending, I guess there's the bright switch on a 5150, I think, right? And on the 6505, and you should be able to tame it so it'll work good with pedals. I don't know, your mileage may vary, but is the combo the same as the old 5150 where it's got the closed back? Because it's very, very heavy. You're going to find that the thing weighs 100 pounds, but it sounds great. I mean, the closed back 212 is very unique. It's like a head and a cabinet attached, really, is what it is, almost, So Dan says he's been using the PT15IR through 212, great, and direct. I've also used my Axe-Fx in the loop. Oh, that's nice. I've never tried that. Never tried an Axe-Fx in the loop. I still aim to make a quad Cortex 4 cable video where I put it in the loop and in front, do that whole thing. Let's see here. Guitar All says, for a studio space, would you rather have concrete all around you in a basement built like a bomb shelter or some windows and natural light? Oh, if I would always go for the windows and natural light if you can still get the volume that you need without bothering neighbors. It depends on your neighborhood and stuff like that, I guess. To be honest, yeah, I mean, I miss windows. In my home where I live now, I've got a nice window over there, but the place where you guys used to see me make videos sometimes from home, I had this wraparound situation that had windows on 2 walls, and I loved that. I mean, I loved sitting there and playing guitar, and it was an apartment situation, and so I couldn't really play loud, but I had an aux there and a sort of reactive load and stuff, and I could do the direct thing, and I've made part Pete Thorn 2 there. I made part of my record there, just using the aux and things like that. And I loved that, I would play more. I was playing a little more then, I think, than I even do now, just kind of for fun because of my setup. And so I got to get that together a little bit more here and just not be so, like, oh, I don't have the window I used to have. So what? Like, I would like to play a little more here. So I don't want to have, it was starting to get crazy there. I don't know if you guys have this issue where it's like the gear starts to take over your living space a little bit. And I never wanted that. And there I had all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, there's 5 heads in here and there's like a lot of guitars. And, so I've only got 2 guitars here at home right now. This is one of them, which I love this guitar, but this is an old Sir Classic that I had them do a new neck for because I didn't like the neck and the shape. And so they did a 21 fret roasted, little bit of bird's eye, and it just is awesome now. Transformed the guitar. I love it. So that's a nice guitar just to have here at home and do everything that I need to do, basically. And I have I brought that Acoustasonic Jazzmaster home because I think it's actually quite a nice guitar for just sitting on the couch and playing. And I've got a gig bag over there. I got to get it out, but. Anyways, I digress. You asked me about, I mean, your 2 situations that you're saying, like the concrete walls, in a basement, as opposed to nice natural light windows. That's kind of my 2 situations that I had in my old, where I had a studio and then I had my home. And my studio is concrete walls and I can kind of do whatever I want. And yeah, there's a thing like the optimum is having an environment where you can do what you want to do and have the natural light and stuff, I think, because it does make a difference. But I can also bear down and work and make a nice environment in a room that's maybe less than optimal as far as the aesthetic or whatever. I can just get into the work and concentrate. So it just depends what's important to you, I think. Let's see here. Sir Reactive Load IR, which speaker setting is my favorite? I think it's 1-1 on that, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, because I'm not sure how, when they ship them, what the order of the IRs are, because I think a long time ago I changed mine, and I can't forget, but I think I changed them to be the same as my PT15, because they are now, and I'm like, wait a minute, it didn't come like that. And then I changed a few, sometimes it's hard to remember, and then I need to like plug it in with the USB and look and see what's in each folder. So, yeah. Anyway, the greenback loaded 412 with a 57 and a 121 is the one that I like the most as far as like an overall thing. The Sir cabinet IRs from Celestion of my signature 212 cabinet, that's the side by side, the horizontal 212. Those are really great. It's a G12H75 creamback speaker. And that speaker works for anything. Which is why we picked it in that cabinet originally, because it was just like so great across the board for different tones. I found, that speaker just was incredible for sounding great clean and also great dirty and great crunchy. And it's just very balanced, Fareed's asking if I've listened to the Smith Kotzen album. I haven't yet listened to the whole thing, no, but I will. Been doing other things the last couple of days. I've seen nothing but great things about it. Everybody says it's a great rock record. So that show with Richie was so much fun a couple weeks ago. It's up to, I think, 36,000 views or something like that, which is awesome. People really dig Richie, and you know, he's a funny dude and obviously an amazing musician. And I think this album mainly, I mean, I think the big, not surprise, but I don't think maybe people knew Adrian could sing as well as he does. From what I've heard, you know, the couple tracks that I have heard, I mean, he's great on there. And it kind of like opens up a whole nother world for him outside of Maiden, you know. So didn't he sing on a B-side, like an Iron Maiden B-side, like back a long time ago? I think he sang on the B-side to Wasted Years or something, which was a cool track. Got my Sunset Sound mug. Come on now. A friend of mine had a birthday at Sunset Sound. They had those. They were giving them away. I was like, score. Totally. Who else we got here? How can you not like Richie Kotzen, says Todd, right? Yeah. Good guy. Good guy, amazing musician. Richard says, sir, customer service will replace your neck starting at $950, but scales up for maybe add-ons or something. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is as far as, you know, I guess I get special favors sometimes because I'm an artist or whatever, but I imagine you can get them to do, if there's an issue with a neck or something, yeah, there's probably a system. The neck that was on this guitar, this was Peter Frampton's guitar originally. It went to him, and then he gave it back. I don't know if it was a loaner or if he wasn't bonding with it or what it was, but anyway, it ended up back with them. And back around 2010, when I went on the road with Don Henley, I needed a guitar. I needed two guitars, and a Strat was the right thing. And I needed a guitar. I needed a main one, and then I needed a second one in a different tuning because Don was changing the tunings of some of the songs. So this lived in D, down a whole step, for years, and was my guitar to play The Last Worthless Evening and one other song. I can't remember. And I really, honestly, this guitar was underused. I mean, I used it on 2 songs with Don Henley for, 5 years. It lived in D to D, tuning, standard down a whole step. But the neck on the guitar, and I think Peter likes thinner necks because evidently on the Phoenix guitar is quite a thin, the neck had been shaved down and stuff at some point. So in 6 kind of profile. I found that very thin and wide for me. And I just kind of, I never was really bonding with it. So this is a 60 standard or something, whatever they call like the 60 standard neck shape. And I believe I did a 9.5 to 12 radius on it, which is really cool. The standard kind of SUR radius for compound is 10 to 14. But if you ever get a Strat from them, you custom order it, or a Tele or something style, try the 9.5 to 12. It's really, really nice for, it just feels a little more vintage or something. And yet it's flat enough up here that it's basically 12 up here. And then down here, I don't know, it's just really it's a little it's just a little more like a vintage feel to me. And that finish they're doing on those, whatever they call it, the butcher block, is really beautiful, smooth, and easy to play. So just the neck kind of just really bonded with it once they replaced it. And I love that guitar now. Blind Bailey says, want to ask you if you're still using the Wilkinson locking saddles. Does that floating tremolo solve the old issue of the especially G string you go flat after bending? Yeah, I would say so. The nut has to be cut just right, and it's helpful if you've got locking tuners. But the G and the E are the big problems I find on guitars, tuning stability with traditional trems. What happens is, as you're moving the tremolo and you're dropping it like this and the bridge is lifting, when you think about it, because of the string gauges and the tension over the bridge, I just sounded so American right now. When you think about it, as opposed to when you think about it, the tension of the string over the saddles for the E and the G, because of the gauges and the notes that they're tuned to, they lift the most off the saddle. The other strings stay pretty rooted on the saddle, even when you're moving the bridge down, like say a whole step or whatever. But the E and the G, they begin to lift right off the saddle. And this is something that Sir did, looked at under some sort of, micro whatever. I don't know, it wasn't a microscope. Can't look at something that big under, but it was something where he could see. He did experiments and looked at the strings lifting off the saddles of each of the strings. It kind of checked it out, and evidently the E and the G are the ones that lift the most. So what happens is then, of course, the string lifts, and then when you come back, it can sit back not exactly where it was on the saddle. So those are the big offenders, and to some degree the A, and but yeah, it's just the age-old problem. So these saddles totally alleviate that problem. With the G going flat, that can be more of a nut thing when you bend, I think, on a lot of guitars. So you want to use some like that big bends stuff in the the lubricant in the nut, or the Diodario stuff, to kind of alleviate those problems as much as possible at the nut, and make sure the nut is cut right as well. Like, it's funny how, and nuts can go south after a while too, even on Sirs. I mean, the nut is getting, the string constantly rubbing in the slot as you're using the tremolo and bending strings. And over the years, after a couple of years, 3 years or something like that, you might find you're having problems crop up that you didn't see before, and that's just a thing with wear and tear. So it can be a thing to have a tech look at them and, maybe just like tune up the slots, or, at some point, sometimes you need a new nut, it just depends. I've found over the years, if I get my nuts, I like them real low because I'm a wuss. So I like them like, I hate when the nut is too high, and I can feel, even when the action's sort of low on the guitar, as I get closer to the bottom of the neck, I feel it's high. I hate that. And also when I'm playing like, an F on the low E string, when it's sharp because the nut's kind of high, I hate that. So I just like the nut to be cut as low as possible without any kind of, obviously buzzing. So it's a fine line, and you have to have, I'm a total wuss about it. And that's why I generally I'll get John to cut the nuts on my guitars, because he can take it right to the wire where it's going to go too far and then not go over the edge. So, Steve says, you said you met John Sykes recently. Yeah, he's a great guy. Any chance of having him on here? He mentioned when we were talking that he's not really, like, it's some people, this is their thing, and other people, they're just like, yeah, I don't know, and I totally respect that and get that. He did mention that he watched last week, actually, for a little bit, because I spoke to him this week. But hey, stop that. I've got a house guest right now. Cut it out, dude. He's destroying the couch. Yeah, I'm cat sitting right now. Well, welcome. What was I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, we were talking about John. He's a terrific guy. And I think Dave, because Dave Friedman's been working on his amps, and he would at some point love to have him on his show as well. But that's totally up to John if he would ever be interested in something like that or be comfortable with it. You don't want to. It's like being. Sometimes people they're into these things, and sometimes they're not. But he's just a terrific guy. He's like a really, really cool guy with a lot of knowledge, and drives very cool cars. And yeah, I really liked him. So anyways, maybe he's watching right now. Hi, John. So that's my non-answer about that. Edbert Chu says, I love the great videos and music you're doing. Do you have nerves playing in front of a live crowd? Yeah, I mean, at times. If yes, what do you do to overcome it? This was a big part of my, I actually did you're just hell-bent on destroying my furniture, aren't you? I need a new couch anyway. This is my curse, getting a white couch. The black cat comes over and destroys it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, nerves. So I focused a lot on this in Jennifer Batten's Guitar Cloud Symposium event that I did a couple weeks ago on a Saturday. I talked a lot about nerves and stage fright and how to overcome it. And I've got some strategies. There's a whole article I wrote on it. If you want to reference it in my Tone Talk column that I used to do for Premier Guitar. So if you look up Tone Talk, you'll find it in there. It's one of the columns I did. A few of the things you can do. Number one, know that, okay, preparing is the biggest thing. So practice until muscle memory is kicking in. Practice standing up with the guitar on a strap. Practice like you're going to be performing, so that it's not a shock when you put on the guitar for the first time in a, either in, let's say, an audition situation for sure, or at a gig. The first time you play a hard lick or something, you don't want it to be the very first time on a strap in front of people standing up. You want to have done that, play standing up and play it kind of loud and make your pedal moves and do all that stuff. So rehearse that stuff so that it's feels comfortable and it's starting to become second nature before you ever get in front of people, including the rest of the band you're going to play with. I believe in having that stuff down on your own. Okay, so preparation, and over again. And Kat Dyson brought up a great point during the event as well. She's guitarist with Prince and Cyndi Lauper, where she said, if you can't play something 6 times with no mistakes, then you don't really know it. And I love that philosophy. I took that away. That was one big thing that I took away from that day. I took a lot of things, but that was the big one that I'm going to use. That's a great rule of thumb. If you want to know if you really know something, do it 6 times on your own. And if you do it 6 times through without any kind of errors or whatever, now you're good to go and do it in front of people. Because I sort of think like you want to be comfortable enough to get out in front of people, but not feel like you're playing at your limit. Yet you want to push your limit. Sure, when the time comes, go for things and stuff like that. I'm not saying not to do that, but I'm saying generally speaking, you got to know that with unfamiliar sound and a crowd there and a little bit of chaos and stuff that happens, it's cool to feel like you're not always playing like, oh, what's the bridge? Oh, how's this chord? Oh, it's a big stretch. Here it comes. You don't want to be doing that in front of people. You want to have all that stuff kind of like out of the way and dialed in ahead of time so that you're not thinking about those things when you're on the gig. So preparation, playing standing up, playing loud, doing whatever you have to do, practicing the background vocals on a mic if you have a little PA and you can play along the tracks or something. All that stuff is very helpful to then when you get in the situation where you're about to walk on stage, to a certain degree, once you get out there, your body will go into autopilot because you've done it so many times over and over again, right? That, you just know how to do this. So I compare it to like if you're driving to an address and you've never been there before and you need to constantly reference, let's say before the days of nav, and we all, look at that now, but like when it used to be like, directions, okay, turn left at this street, now turn right at this street. Now, okay, the next time you do it, you might remember how to get there, or you might forget a couple things, and then you have to reference your notes again, or the map or whatever. Okay, right, I turn left here. By the third time, you're like on autopilot. You don't even think about it anymore. That's what learning music's like. So the more you can do that before you get on stage, that's like, I'm comparing like driving to a location is the same as learning some part or a song. You'll internalize it. So that's the number one thing, prepare. Number two, know that the audience is there to have a good time. They bought a ticket or paid the cover or whatever to get in, or maybe they haven't, maybe it's free, but they want to have fun. Like if they're at a place and it's a music venue and they're not against you or like, let's see what this guy can do. The only time I've ever felt that when it's kind of like that is like, that's why I hate playing at NAMM or any of those kinds of things. Cause I feel like the expectation is, oh, there's another guitar player. Let's see if this guy impresses us. And it's like, I hate that. And it's noisy and it's never optimum and stuff. And I don't like that. I like playing music in a venue where I'm playing songs, not shred licks to impress. That is, to me, it's just like anti-music. And I've talked to other I remember John Five mentioned that to me. It's like, it's kind of like anti-music. Like, it's not really, people that pay to go to a club or whatever, that's not the vibe. They're paying, they want to get a drink, they want to hang with their friends, and they just want to see a good show and some good music. It's a different kind of thing. So anyways, for most gigs, that's going to be the case. So just know that what I'm getting at is that the audience has your back, so that you got to remind yourself of that sometimes, that these people are just here to have a good time. So you don't, in other words, when you get up there, you don't necessarily have to do some stuff that blows them away. It's more about your passion and your energy and your, that whole thing. I used to sometimes like Because it gets a little addictive once you start getting used to that. Like you realize that that's the case, and then it's not that hard, and that this isn't rocket science. And you've done it a ton of times, and you know how to do it. I guess it's an ego thing, but like playing with Chris Cornell or something, if there's a big crowd, you know, it's fun sometimes to like walk out and just walk to the front of the stage and go like, right when you walk out, right, and just be like, come on, you know, like that, and the crowd will invariably go, yeah, because they're there to party with you. And so it's sort of an ego thing, but it's also just like you're, you know, like with your friends, and you're like going, let's do this, and they're like, yeah, you know, it's like passion for having a good time, you know, rock and music or whatever. So that kind of charge, just doing that and going, okay, all I need to do right now is crank it up and play a big loud A chord, and I'm going to get a cool, like, you know, it sets you in the right headspace for what you're actually doing, you know. And then beyond that, if you're still feeling nervous, I like to call this like your rock and roll spirit animal. Find your a person that you are impressed with on stage, with their seeming, and you never know because they might be nervous, but seemingly they're so confident, you know. And for me, those people, there's folks like Jimmy Page or Jack White is one that I always mention. I've talked about it a lot before in here, but Jack, he won me over in It Might Get Loud, that movie years ago, and I was so impressed with his raw energy and his attitude that he really wants to put on a show for the crowd, and he knows it's about that visceral, raw thing. And when everything is going to hell, even if I'll tell the story super quick because I don't want to bore anybody that's heard it before. But the coolest thing, because it's a great lesson, when they were on Conan, the White Stripes, years ago, and he ran over to Conan's desk to play a guitar solo, which is really ballsy. He's got a wireless on his guitar. It's just him and Meg playing, you know. And he runs over to Conan's desk. He takes his guitar off and he smacks it on the desk, and then he pulls out a slide and starts playing slide right in front of his face. And Conan's just like cracking up, and it's awesome because it's super showy. He goes to go back to finish this last verse of the song, puts the guitar back on, and run over back to the mic over where the actual stage was. And something happens, like the wireless pulls out of the guitar, I assume, and all of a sudden there's no guitar sound. And so now it's just Meg going, dunk, dunk, and that's it. And he takes the guitar off and throws it down when he realizes this has happened. He goes over and he grabs the mic and just finishes vocal and drums. And it's like, to me, better that it happened than that it, you know, it was like better. It was more energy. It was crazy. It was a unique moment. And he knew in that moment exactly what to do in order to save the day. He could have gotten, you know, he could have fallen apart, had some sort of, you know, meltdown. Instead, he just killed it, you know, and it was better. It was like, I don't need a guitar. Watch this, grab this mic stand and just, you know, sing the last verse of the song with the drums. And it's one of the coolest live things I've seen, because stuff like that happens. And what are you going to do? It's in that split second that you got to make a decision. And his decision was impeccable. You know, it was the rock and roll, right, badass, totally the thing to do. So what do you do when you're nervous on stage? Think about that. Watch that episode of Conan, try and find it. Or find another person that you think is really ballsy on stage and has seeming, you know, like infinite confidence or whatever. And think about that person. And just for a minute, like, you know, act as if until is one of my favorite phrases, because a lot of us has imposter syndrome and feel like we don't belong and like, oh, you know, and everybody feels that way, especially the more and more talented people get, I swear, the more they feel that way. It's the ones that are actually kind of like underprepared and maybe sort of mediocre that sometimes have the biggest egos. It's true. Like in any walk of life, not just playing music or whatever. It's, you know what I'm talking about, the blowhards at work that like actually aren't that, but they've just got this seeming charisma and they think they're amazing, and that never seems to wane. And then the really talented people suffer from imposter syndrome. You know, I've talked to rock stars that have imposter syndrome, you know, huge people that get really nervous. I mean, most of the usual suspects that you would think, you know, they have, you know, some issues with it. Others don't, but you know, this is stuff that people go through. So Alex Kitchen is up there in the super duper chat, and he's just saying, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Steven Mercado says, hey, Pete, it's like chicken soup for the guitar soul. Thanks, man. Question, what are your thoughts about coming out of an HX Stomp patch into an API type preamp before hitting the interface? Yeah, you can. I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, it's a line level device, so introducing the effect of, like a transformer or something of a mic pre can be, and if you want to EQ a little bit, obviously it's cool, but I sort of think it's unnecessary. You try it and see what you think, it's totally up to your ears. It's not really a necessary thing, but if you feel like it's giving you something that you're missing otherwise, then I say go for it, I have, let me see. For a while, I used to run the output of my PT15 into an API. It was Maris, but it's an API-based pre. Basically, it's like a 312 style mic pre. And I would run through it, and I thought it sounded cool, but I just kind of I think I just started plugging the output straight into the line in on my UA. Occasionally, on the UA strip, I'll put one of the virtual pre's, like the Neve 1073 or something, just use it to gain up a little bit. I don't know if it's subtle, if anything, when you're talking about a line level device that's already got a bunch of modeling on it and everything. I don't know that it's, I think you running through devices like that, more for when you consider that a mic pre, like a microphone is a -30 sort of, especially like a 57 or something, or a ribbon, they're really, really low output. And so the effect of a mic pre on a device that's a really, really low output sound, you're gaining it up 30 dB or something. That's a big deal. Like the component that's in line, the mic pre, and its effect on a signal that's so low, you're really amping up, you're blowing up this little thing. It's akin to, like the preamp of a guitar amplifier, taking a guitar signal that's very, very low in output, and then the preamp shapes the tone. Well, that's the same thing that happens with the microphone, and the preamp shapes the tone. And that's where you're going to notice most of the difference. Now, if you've already got something that's all shaped, and like with all this modeling and cabinet simulation and all this stuff happening on it, now it's like you run it into it. First of all, you don't want to then gain that down and then run it into a mic pre and gain it back up again, because you're just like kind of like, as for when it comes to noise and things like that, I think you're sort of defeating the purpose of, it's not really the way it was meant to be used. So if that makes sense, yeah, maybe it's kind of akin to like, it's not as severe as this, but maybe it's kind of akin to like, if you've got a guitar tone and it's already formed, like your HX stomp, and then you run it through the preamp of a guitar amp again, and then use the EQ to shape the tone a little bit. It's like, I don't know that was really necessary. You wouldn't do it, right? So it's not as severe because it's a much more sort of, maybe, I don't know if linear is the right word, but it's not going to affect the tone as much. But a mic pre it's kind of a similar thing that you're doing. You've already got a gained up signal that's shaped, so why not just go line in? What's your favorite pickup in all the ones that you've played with? That's coming from, some of you guys have crazy name. Two doors in Istanbul. Sorry, I'm not going to say it, but I think you're in Istanbul. Nice town. I've been there. It was fun. I didn't mean you have a crazy name, by the way. I just mean the way that it's written, all small lowercase letters. I can't pronounce it exactly right. I'm going to screw it up. Sorry, I came off the wrong way. What's my favorite pickup? Thornbuckers for humbuckers are, to me, just, I love them. But I've grown I like a lot of different pickups for different things. I've got a new affinity for the super distortion recently, classic super distortion. I saw my friend Tracy Guns put a super distortion and DiMarzio PAF in a new Les Paul yesterday, which was the kind of one of the only choices you could make in replacement pickups around 1975 or something. There wasn't any out there. So the super distortion was, I think Larry claims, and probably rightfully so, is the first replacement pickup, that was commercially available. But anyway, he really did something special with it because it was really cool and unique right out of the gate. What a great, it's a cool sound into an old Marshall. It's just a great rock sound. So I like those two. Single coils, I like the Sir V60 for replacement. Sorry, V63. And then the V60 LP is the one that's been out for many years that I've got in a number of guitars too, and it's great. But I really like the V63 these days. That's my favorite from them. Lots of other cool pickups I've tried over the years, though. A good old Duncan Antiquity is a nice pickup for, a readily available PAFE kind of thing. A 59 is never a bad thing. They work good. And the pickups in my Yaren that Gil wound are amazing, I think. The T-tops that are in my, they're not T-tops. It's a patent number and an old PAF in my 335. But they're kind of T-toppy. They're low. They're like 7K something. Low output humbuckers. They're great too. The original. Simon is up there in the super chat. He says, "Hey man, hope you're all good. I'm good. Have you been doing lots of session work during the pandemic as well as your demos? If so, any highlights of some of those?" A little bit. Not tons. For instance, I played on Holly Henderson's song recently, which is called Old War, New War, if you want to check that out. And what else did I do session wise? Just some writing projects for different people and stuff like that, playing on their stuff. But Holly's song is the easiest one to go listen to, I guess. But YouTube's just keeping me slammed, man. I mean, honestly. Mark Becker's up there in the chat as well, and he's in Europe. And he says, "Hey, Pete, been looking for a used deluxe or Princeton-style head and recently saw an ad for Gomez amp Tahitian reverb. Haven't heard of that one. Don't know much about them. No experience with them. I'm sorry, man." I did see that Brian from Top Hat has a new Princeton amp out that you might want to check out. He did a little video of it on the social media channels recently. And I like Princeton's. So Princeton's one of my favorite amps. Deluxe is one of my favorite amps, honestly. Such a great sounding, amp for recording and stuff. Really terrific. So, sorry, I haven't tried that particular one, but look at Brian's Top Hat offerings as well. Yeah. Jason says he's in Germany and that he promises to catch up on one of these live streams semi-sober sometime. Hey, do what you got to do, man. It's Sunday. Enjoy. Semi-sober or otherwise. Abandoned Chanel says, "What do I think of the Marshall DSL 40 CR? I haven't tried one of the new versions. I remember trying the original DSL 40, which was a cool little amp, but they had issues with overheating or something, I think. That's what I heard. They were a little bit of a reliability nightmare. I would like to say I think this is working quite well today as well with the Beatles behind me. I don't know. Maybe I'll do this more at home sometimes. Why not? Just means I can get more sleep. I like doing it at the studio just in case there's things there that I can reference and stuff. But for those that just joined, the reason that I'm doing this at home is because I had no internet yesterday all day because of Spectrum. It was awesome. There was an outage in the whole area by the studio. So I didn't want to, when I left the studio late last night, there was no internet. I'm like, I'm not going to take a chance and drive all the way over there and just hope that it's on again. So I did it here. It's allergy season here in Southern California, and it's nailing me. I need to take some Allegra. I think I missed a super chat. Thanks, Ben, for letting me know. He says, "Looks like your signature, sir, has a high bridge and compensated neck pocket." High bridge and compensated neck pocket. No, not really. It's the would be the same as this bridge. They do them the same. The geometry of the, it's fairly low to the, I set mine so it floats a little like that, but it's the same as this. It looks about like that on my guitar. I don't like that. A Tune-O-Matic's actually a little difficult for me. I much prefer the standard Strat height off the body, and if anything, I don't mind having a little back route or something, but I don't like those deep back routes. But I'd rather have the tremolo bridge very close to the body. So it's just a picture you saw with a funny shadow or something. I don't know. Do I like Burl Audio B1D 500 preamps on guitars? I haven't tried Burl. That sounds like it's a 500 series. I haven't tried that in particular. The only ones I've tried are the Chandler, the EMI pre and the Little Red, I think it's called, and Maris. I've got a DBX mic pre as well in my 500 rack. And then I've got racked APIs and BAE Neve style. So, and I think anything API is my favorite. for mic pre's. If anybody's listening, I've come around to that. Daniel says, great live chat from home. Thanks, man. Yeah, I've come around to APIs being I was talking about this with Dave Friedman yesterday, actually, just that they're for rock guitar, they don't add wool and fur, which sometimes can be cool on certain guitar tones, or maybe for acoustics or certain, if you want to, like a vintage, kind of really fat sort of lower gain or mid gain tones, that kind of thing. But the wool and the slowness and the fur that a Neve style pre, this isn't, by the way, this isn't like, I make it sound like it's like maybe too apparent. It's not. These are subtle differences. Mic pre's are subtle. But for those out there that record, they know what I'm talking about. Lauren, you know what I'm talking about, right? APIs, they're very quick and they just are punchy and they don't add any fur or wool to the sound, whereas the classic Neve sound can be kind of a big bottom end and be it's more colored, actually. I think the API is a little more transparent. And for a aggressive, fast Marshall or something, I think they're my favorite. On drums, I can go either way, but sometimes the Neve thing, if you're recording a kick drum, or like my friend Kurt, I think he's got Neve style pre's, and he gains up the hell out of his kick and snare and stuff, and he'll send me, like if you saw that Eventide video I did a couple weeks ago with Kurt playing drums, he'll send me his drum tracks, and they've actually sound almost like the close mics have a little distortion on them. And I know he's using those Neve pre's and really gaining them up. And it's like, whoa, that's like really a thing. But then every time I mix his drums, it's like, well, that sounds great. And it's only like, 6 or 7 mics. It's like, it's pretty easy. You get a great sound by doing that. So it's like, it's okay. If you listen to drum sound on like In Good Company from Pete Thorn 2, that's very Neve-ish to me. If you listen to his drums, and it's the way he tunes and everything too, and plays, of course, he's amazing. But the fat kind of kick and snare sound that you hear on that's that sound to me of like a Neve getting, because if you heard those drum tracks soloed, you'd be like, whoa, there's actually some overdrive. Like on the kick and the snare, there's actually a fair amount of harmonic distortion coming from the pre's. What are my thoughts on the EVH Wolfgang pickups? Says POV. I like those actually for in my Wolfgang anyway. I've got them in a Les Paul too, but that guitar's been in storage for a long time. I need to do something with that guitar. They're a cool pickup for a high output kind of thing, and they sound really good in the Wolfgang. So I don't, in like a basswood bar, they still work cool. Yeah. I'm generally, it's funny, I'm broadening my horizons a little bit, I guess, because I'm generally a PAF kind of guy and a low output kind of guy. Generally, I always will be. But by the same token, I really appreciate a super distortion these days. So it's like a different thing, Just read that engineer Glenn Johns hated the Neves, always preferred the Helios. He had Olympic Studios, lots of classic rock came out of that place. Kind of interesting. It's like you've got Fender, Gretsch, let's say, and maybe that's like, or Fender and Gibson. And that would be like Neve and API or something. And then you've got Helios, which is like Gretsch, the other brand. Yeah, Helios. Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, I think, were done on Helios consoles, right? And they've got some beautiful old Helios boards at Sound City now. Went to the reopening of Sound City because they opened it again, and they got the, I think the board that Zeppelin 2 was done on or something. These old Helios consoles, they're cool. For sure. I don't know much about them. I don't have like a great perspective exactly on what a Helios, what is but Glenn is a guy that, I mean, God, he made some good sounding records, His whole 3 mic drum thing is amazing, and he's a legend. His records are incredible. So let's see here. Up there in the super chat. It's V-Boss. What's up, man? He says, can you talk about your approach to reverbs and what exactly separates the new UA one from Strymon or Eventide? I know they all sound great. I'd like to understand how to choose one that's best for me. Beyond trying them in person, it's hard, but I've only spent a second with I know I put up a little video of the UA pedals, but I literally played through them for 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the night the other day because I was like, I had them for a couple of days. Todd Roy says allergies are cool. It's allergies. Santa Ana's. It's warm, but allergies. That's the only thing when they show up. anyways, I plugged in the UA pedals for a few minutes, and that's all I got with them. And they sound amazing. I mean, the delay was really wonderful, and I only tried it. There's a phaser and then the mod, and I wasn't even completely sure if it was chorus or vibrato I was using when I did that video on Instagram the other day. I literally just dialed in a sound and then came up with a part and played really quick. I was like, that sounds cool. Let's go with that. But so I don't have this great perspective, but the spring reverb that I dialed up on the real quick on the UA sounded awesome. And I've heard nothing but good things. I mean, Josh Smith was mentioning, he's like, they nailed the EP3 and the delay. So I'll get more into it this week. Yeah, I'll get more into it and check them out further. So I'll have a better answer for you maybe next Sunday if you ask me. I'll have better perspective on all the different effects and stuff. And I don't know if I'll have a video out by next Sunday. Probably not. Maybe, but certainly the following week be the UA video. Charles says, I think it's because the Sir PT signature pickups have frames that make them sit high. Everything else has to be higher. No, not really. No, they don't really sit high. They're just as like a standard humbucker with them. They don't have frames or anything. Are you talking about like the mount at the bottom or something? There's nothing higher on my guitar bridge-wise or anything than the standard Sir. When you say frames, maybe you mean the pickup rings, but they're not that fat. And a standard Sir pickup sits above the body anyway, like that much. So you're not, I think it's a visual thing that's freaking you out. If you were to actually measure the height of the bridge off the body, it's the same as like this guitar or anything else. It's not like they didn't change the neck geometry or like the way the neck sits in the neck pocket. It's the same as a regular cut, as a regular Sir standard. Sorry. It's an attack on my sinuses. What's my honest take on John Mayer, says Vinny EVH. I really like John Mayer. I like him as a guy, number one. And he's really kind to me. So maybe I'm biased, but he's always been very nice to me. And he's my text buddy. Sometimes we go back and forth and talk about pedals. And he's a total guitar geek, obviously. But I mean, he really is like, interesting to talk to about pedals and stuff, just the same as this kind of stuff. And he's got a new record coming out, and I won't say any more about it. I won't spoil it, but I can't wait to hear it actually. And a friend of mine is working on it that I met the other day, actually had a beverage with after work. He's the engineer. I had no idea. Guy I used to play in a band with, but he was engineering it. So. But anyways, I can't wait to hear it. And I really like him. He made a great impression on me 15 or so years ago, maybe 16 years ago, where I met him at a gig. I had a friend that was playing. Okay, I'll tell you my John Mayer story. It was 2006, I think. And I was playing, I think I was doing a tour with Jewel, and I was in New York City. And his guitar player, Michael Chavez, invited me to see a show. It was an outdoor show in a park somewhere in New York, somewhere in like Midtown. It wasn't Central Park. I don't know what park it was, but anyways. So I had a day off, so I went, and clouds started rolling in. There was like 6,000 people in this park, great big crowd, and maybe more, and it starts raining, and it starts raining hard. And I mean, it is like torrentially raining. So I've got credentials or whatever. So I went backstage to meet Michael, and he took me in the dressing room, and there's John, and introduced me really quick. I said, hello, and it's torrentially raining at this point. And it's a little bit of chaos going on, because it's like, whoa, can we even do this show? And somebody runs in from the sound crew and says like, okay, we just lost the monitor console. It's toast from the water. Got in the console or something. So he said, it's a full band show that what's going on in there. I should take a picture of this and show you guys. It's the crazy cat. Anyways, no, never mind. I want to continue my story. So, so monitor console's gone, completely toast. And he says, I can give you a couple wedges from front of house, but that's it. And for a whole band, like, how's that going to work, right? So, I think they were probably all on in-ears or something at that point. So John just said, split second. This is the first thing that made a big impression on me. This is that state that we were talking earlier about confidence. He says, okay, I'm going to go do it solo. No problem. I'll just do it solo. Give me those wedges. Give me 2 wedges and I'll do it solo. And he goes, and I'm going to give him a show too. I remember saying that. I'm going to give him a show. Like, I'm not backing down, because of the rain. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So he goes up and proceeds to do about a 45-minute or hour set. Maybe it was an abbreviated set, but he goes up and, the crowd's out there. It is pouring and everybody's soaked and, but he goes up and does it. And he's like, hey, sorry, like, it's not going to be full band, but let's do this. And then he kicks into, an hour of music on acoustic guitar. And they had as good a time as they could possibly have in that situation. And I was really knocked out by that. So after the show, I watched from a dry spot, which was nice, and after the show, we went back to the hotel, and it was in Union Square, I remember, and we went, and I went with Michael and got a drink, and then John came down, and we started talking, and I was like, man, that was amazing. And he's like, oh, you got to do what you got to do, right? And then we just started gabbing about amps and having a beverage, he's talking about his, 2 rocks and stuff, and I was probably hyping Divided by 13 amps or something at that point. I've never played those. He's like, you guys want to go get some food? I'm hungry. Let's go eat. Let's go get sushi. So then we end up at Nobu, and he takes me out for sushi. And this guy doesn't know me from Adam. I'm just some guy, And we had an amazing. I love sushi, so that was awesome. And he's like, let's get mochi. I always remember that. And this big plate of mochi, ice cream balls shows up, and we had that. Then we went back to the hotel, had another drink, and by this point, it's like probably 12:30 or 1 a.m. or something like that. And we just had this really fun time, just guitar geeking out. Talking about music, I remember we were talking about Hendrix and all kinds of stuff. And at the end, he said, well, that was fun, man. It was great meeting you. I'll look you up when I come to LA. And I was like, cool. Hey, man, thank you so much. It was an amazing dinner. I mean, you didn't have to do that, And he was like, it's my pleasure, And then he took off. And I was like, that guy was awesome. That guy just took me out for sushi. He just blew me away with his confidence and, killing it on stage at the gig and doing the right thing, not just like walking out on a whole crowd of people. And I was like, there's absolutely nothing to not like about that whole situation. I'm suitably impressed. And so ever since then, that formed my opinion, I think. And, like anybody, I guess he's had ups and downs and stuff like that, but he's lived a very public life he was young when he got successful, and through the kind of like early days, we got to remember, like, it was 2001 or 2, which was still early internet days, pre-iPhone days. Matter of fact, he played the intro of the introduction of the iPhone, So think about that at Apple, when Steve Jobs showed the iPhone and showed that it had a full web browser on it. Everybody was like, oh, and then he performed afterwards. So he was there. I mean, that whole dawn of smartphones and stuff, everybody was using their Nokias and their, their Razors and stuff before that, flip phones, and think about Instagram and everything that's happened. So he's navigated the whole thing from the kind of around the time when the internet really started taking off to now has been his career arc, and that sort of public, being a public person during those, navigating all that stuff, because it was the Wild West, right? And so, I would equate or, attribute some of the ups and downs, maybe like in anybody's career during this time, to finding our way through like this, live streaming. It's like, this is kind of still the Wild West of like, and this year has been a big explosion of people doing things like this, and it's like, it's still, I'm sure people make mistakes and do stupid things or say dumb things. I probably said dumb things, and you get yourself into these situations that you kind of have to learn how to navigate. So anyways, that's my impression of John. So did I miss a super chat, man? Did I miss another one? If I did, I'm sorry. Let me know. I apologize to you all if I did. I'll see if I missed any. I don't think I did. Okay. Mayor is really reaching out to help people on Instagram and TikTok, says Richard. Yeah, I mean, because he's learned it, the hard way through doing in the School of Hard Knocks. So, but I have a great. Who are we talking about? Says Ronnie. We're talking about John Mayer. So, yeah, I have lots of respect for him. I think he's a great songwriter. I know he's a really hard worker, and I think he's a really, really good guitar player. He's a very musical guitar player that plays the right thing for songs. And he's done a great service for the guitar, I think, keeping it out there and introducing it. Folks like, Mateus cite him as a primary influence over folks like Hendrix and stuff, because you think about the age, somebody 23, 24 years old. Mateus told me I found Hendrix and stuff through John Mayer. I didn't know anything about Hendrix. I knew about John Mayer. And then it's just like us, Eddie Van Halen, and we find out Clapton was his big influence or whatever, So Michelle Bishop says, what do you like about that Acoustasonic Jazzmaster? I haven't picked one up yet, but my go-to is my 60s Jazzmaster. Well, I like them because they're, I think they sound quite good for, I know they don't sound like a full-body Dreadnought D28 or something. No, they don't. But they have quite a nice sound for sitting and playing just a sort of, it's a smaller sound, but it's fairly balanced, and it's nice to just sit here on the couch and play a guitar like that, I find. They have a neck that feels like a Strat, so that's comfy. So there's a lot of things to like right there. Just the feel and the kind of compactness of them. It's not like this big. There's something about an acoustic guitar. I love acoustic guitars, but for like playing at home and stuff, I really like small body, acoustics, and like those little, what are those, Martin or Gibson, what do they call them, the B50 or B15s, those little guys that were like or parlor guitars. So they're a little easier to get around when you're just like hanging on the couch or something. There's something about the Jazzmaster that's like that. It's not such a big box that you're sitting there playing. Also, because it's kind of a polarizing guitar and people have a lot of opinions about it. It was funny. A couple days after I did the Acoustasonic Jazzmaster review, I was down in the San Diego area and I was out having sushi somewhere, just sitting by myself, and a couple guys that were playing Sidewalk. Two guys out playing covers, really good. They were from Illinois, and one of the guys said to me, "Hey, you're Pete Thorn, I watch your videos all the time." And I thought they were sang great, and they were both good guitar players. And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And they go, "Yeah, you just put up that video for that Acoustasonic Jazzmaster this week." Oh, man, I want one of those. And I was like, "You are the guy that I was thinking this guitar could be perfect for." Somebody that, doing a solo gig or a duo gig, and you need a lot of tones. You don't want to bring a ton of gear. You just want to plug in direct. You don't want to deal with feedback and issues with acoustic, You need something durable as hell, because they are, they feel like more like, they feel like kind of like an electric guitar, sort of durability wise, more than a more delicate acoustic kind of, these guys are throwing guitars in the car and driving up and down Southern California, all over the place, playing gigs. It just seems to make sense, bolt on neck. It's like very, it's a little more robust or whatever. That's the I could totally see taking that guitar like that to a gig like that and using it, maybe with some pedals, occasionally to get some different tones. And because guitars like that with those small bodies. And I used to play at Chet Atkins sometimes, a Gibson Chet Atkins. Anybody remember those? They were similar. They were like an electric guitar. It was a glue-in neck, but I love my Chet Atkins. Actually, I still have it. Steel string acoustic that looked kind of sort of like a big Les Paul or something, the body shape. I did a tour with it, a whole tour with an artist, where I brought a little pedal board and I had like 5 pedals, and I would sometimes play fuzz and stuff and do like solos with this thing, because you could do that on it, and it might feed back, but it'd be like electric guitar style feedback. It was cool. So, these things are all tools to me. Skeleton Pete says, it's all age relative. I'm 66 years old. I discovered Howlin' Wolf and Hubert Sumlin thanks to the Rolling Stones. Yeah, the Stones, they were the John Mayer of the day, introducing people to, these great American blues artists that folks might not have been aware of otherwise, And it's really interesting, that whole story. I mean, if nobody's read Keith's book, it's fascinating, There's this story about like Keith meeting Muddy Waters, where he went to some studio in like, Memphis or something. And there was somebody up doing some work, like either painting or doing some work or whatever. When Keith got there and the guy looked down or whatever, and he realized it was Muddy Waters, It's amazing, meeting his heroes. Maybe his impression was, oh, these guys are going to be super revered in the States. And it did take like the Rolling Stones to kind of like, there was a blues, I feel like they helped those guys get the credit they deserved, because they deserved it, So anyways, with I think now with, it's a little bit of a different thing, but I think with Mayer, when you see that DVD, I always cite that, where he was doing the blues trio, he was playing with Steve and with Pino, and I think it was shot at maybe Staples Center or something, and it's a blues trio concert, in an arena right there. He's playing blues in an arena, with the crowd. You look out on them and it's 20 somethings, a lot of girls, and he's playing blues. That's really cool. I mean, to me, he's helping to keep it going, Big service, I think, to the guitar in general. Yeah. I think anybody who can play with Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino without getting bulldozed is the real deal, says Mike. Totally. I mean, and he's been around a long time at this point. He's been around, like I say, 20 years at this point, that we've been aware of him anyway. I remember playing a gig with John Mayer opening. I was playing with Five for Fighting at Verizon Amphitheater. It's not there anymore, I don't think, but it used to be Irvine Meadows or whatever in, down in Irvine, some radio show. And John was opening for us. And within a year, he was massive, massive. A lot of bands opened for us on that. Maroon 5 was another one. They were touring in a motorhome. And before long, another year or two, they were arenas. It's interesting seeing these bands take off. Hardwood Steaks says, your thoughts on using a motif in songwriting, like Eminence Front. Is this cool anymore? Sure. I don't see why not. I never really thought about it. Yeah, I mean, anything that inspires you to write a lyric or that seems like a cool vibe is valid when it comes to songwriting, I would say. I don't put any limits on songwriting as to, what it should be inspiring or shouldn't be, or the right way to do things. I don't think about songs that way. I think it's bullshit to think about songwriting with any kind of limitations, or, the fun part is just that anything goes and there is no rules. So, and that's when the interesting music happens, honestly, no matter who the artist. The more rules are, I mean, you can do things that you can play like little games with yourself or whatever to try and, well, let's, like for instance, an interesting one I think is to copy things about other songs, but that wouldn't be apparent when you write your own. So like a groove, copy the drum feel or groove, and then write your own song around that, not similar, chordally or melodically or anything like that, harmonically. Or another one is to copy the structure of a song. So to copy verbatim the amount of bars, the verse, B section, chorus, bridge, everything, like where they happen. Copy that structure and build. It'll help you. These are exercises to help you build kind of what you should do. You do that a few times, or spend a little while doing that stuff, and then you're like, okay, now I'm on my path, and I know what should happen next in a song. It's interesting, like intro, verse, B section, chorus, maybe double verse, chorus. Should there be a solo? Should we go to a bridge and then the solo? What should we do? I don't know. And you make those decisions, and then like half verse, breakdown verse. Okay. Last chorus, is it a double chorus? Shall we go double time at the end? Maybe, something to set off the last chorus. Maybe halftime. I don't know. These kinds of things, I heard a song yesterday. I'm always paying attention to things on the radio. Like it was that Incubus song. How do you do it? Make me do it. That song. I haven't thought about Incubus in a long time. They're like this band that kind of was around and they just sort of disappeared. What happened to them? They were pretty good. But the chorus in that song is halftime and the verse is double time. It's interesting. You don't hear too many songs that do that, where you might like it kind of drops into the chorus and gets heavier. There's a little bit of like odd meter stuff going on, I think, or maybe it's just like bar of 6, bar 4, bar 2 kind of stuff happening. But it's interesting that I took note, like, oh, that's interesting. You kind of a tight kind of, double time groove in the verse, and then break down to kind of like, and open up in the chorus to a halftime thing. I'm going to try that, because I don't know that I've done that. Little things like that, take note of, and then try them. It's fun. What else we got here? Last show I saw was Incubus in Detroit, says Richard. That's cool. That'd be cool if they did they're amazing as always, says Simon. I just haven't heard them like a song breakout or something the last few years, I guess, It'd be great to see them put a new record out that really connected, because they were really cool. Totally unique, it's them right away. They've got that great sound that's their own. I like the kind of like, that they weren't like this bro rock kind of like, they were like an intelligent band that had a heavy kind of almost progressive sound to the, there's a little bit of like, maybe the drummer was like a Neil Peart fan or something. I don't know. And then a more sort of, I don't know. They just had a neat thing. Very original band, I think, Guitaral says, as an EVH kid, I remember putting in a tape of my folks, Sinatra in the 50s, and I was blown away by how great it was. I have this like one regret that I used to kind of poo-poo my mom's music, like growing up. And I don't think I gave her enough. Maybe we didn't bond enough on music later on in life, but it's like my mom had pretty cool, she had really bad taste sometimes in music. Like she would listen to this AM radio station with all that BS, like, first of all, it sounded terrible because it was AM, but then they would play like, do you remember any of those like weird 70s pop, like whatever they called pop? Like, it'd be like, I don't know. Everything from like Neil Sedaka to like, songs like Popcorn would come on. Anybody remember that? That shit is burned in my memory. I'll never forget it. Like, I don't want to think about that melody, but I used to hear it on AM radio in the car. And, oh God, Mom, can we just put on the FM station so I can hear Back in Black, and she hated that. My mom would always like put she'd turn the sound, if we were listening to rock, to all the way to the right, because she didn't want to have it in the left side of she was driving, all the way to the right in the back rear speaker, as far away from her as possible in the car. If we got to listen to some rock in the car, which we did, she was pretty cool about it. But we'll only get that wouldn't have worked for Van Halen, would it? The guitar pan left. But anyways, she loved Sinatra, and I always feel like I poo-pooed. I was always making fun of Sinatra, which is ridiculous. You get older and you're like, oh, he's amazing. Of course he's amazing. And I wish we'd bonded a bit more on that like earlier, and I hadn't been such a little prick, But anyways. If it sounds right, it is right. I think EVH said that, says Christopher. That's right. That's a good philosophy for songwriting in general, I think. Vincent says, thanks, Pete. You bet, man. Thank you. What did I do? But I'll take it. Thank you. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Without Albert King, there would be no SRV. That's right. Yeah, and SRV, really, that's how I became of like Freddie King and Albert King. And like, I didn't know anything about Albert King. So when I think about it, it was through Stevie, And then I was like, oh, wow, like Albert King, he's amazing. So yeah, for sure. He turned us all on to this stuff, Let's see. Which pedal would you buy first? MXR, EVH 5150, or Friedman BEOD? That's tough. They're both really good. I think the BEOD is a little smoother, I don't want to say more gain, but it's a little smoother. And the MXR is a little rawer, like got a little more like of this raw kind of Soldano meets, that character. So, but I got the 5150 in the first video that I did for it, if you ever saw it, to sound really vintagey. It's got a great raw kind of thing to it. It's maybe a little, the BEOD has, to me, it's really gainy, but it's a good sound, high gain thing. Its big strength is its ability to tame the high end if you're plugging into different things. With the presence and treble controls, you can really tame down the high end if you're plugging into a Fender with a bright switch or bright cap. So that's really nice about it. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Christopher says, you're making me want to grab the guitar and play Eminence Front. That's such a great song. I love the vibe of that. It was so 80s and just kind of, you know, it was a song about everybody being on cocaine, wasn't it? You know, that era of like, it's an Eminence Front. It's bullshit. Everybody with their big talk and, you know, they forget they're hiding. It's an Eminence Front. It's a put on. I love that stuff. What's this? You want to hear Noel Gallagher's story about Maroon 5? Is that terrifying? Is it on YouTube? I love Noel Gallagher, but I'm friends with James from Maroon 5, so I don't want to be horrified. I would like to hear it, though. I like Noel. I like Liam, too. I've become an Oasis fan late on, as well as a Noel and Liam fan. It's like Noel's great. I love his songwriting, actually. I think he's very creative and cool. And I like what Liam's doing, too. And I kind of like root for Liam because I feel like he's like this slightly screwed up. I still feel like at his age, he's just a slightly screwed up kid that is just trying to do good. and he's really funny. Noel's funny, too. God, those guys are funny. They are funny. I met Noel once at Budokan in Japan. Sounds exotic, right? But I did. I went to a Noel show, and he was so funny on stage that night. Some of the stuff he said, and it was in the context of being in Japan and stuff. It was extra funny because the crowds are very quiet there, generally speaking, for foreign artists, and so you could hear everything he said on stage, like a pin dropping, you know. And he was really funny. But you know, his banter with his band and stuff was just hilarious. But anyways, when I got there, we went backstage, and I got to go in the dressing room and was introduced to him. Hey, Noel, these are, but before we could be introduced, he goes, who are these guys? Our crew? Which is exactly what I would want Noel Gallagher to say when I come walking in a room. It was perfect. Just like take the piss out instantly. So that was really funny. He totally lived up to my expectations. But he's great. And I love that album he came out with that I'm going to forget the name of, around 2013 or 2014. That's one of my favorite albums of that year. That song, The Right Stuff, I think it's called, is one of my favorite tunes, man. What a cool song. Talk about a groove and like a kind of Eminence Front-ish, and it's like it's got a mood and a vibe. The Right Stuff, is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. Anyway, and the album was called, oh God, what the hell, man? I can't remember anything anymore. Anybody else out there have that problem? In one ear and out the other. Guitar Doc is in the super chat. He says, hard time deciding between PT15 or 100 or SL68. Well, let me see if I can help you. I have a SIR reactive load already. Oh, okay. Any suggestions about which one's most versatile? Well, the PT is more versatile. I mean, the most versatile is going to be the PT15IR because you can run direct and do all the stuff with the built-in load. So even though you already have a reactive load, excuse me, I'm okay now. Even though you already have a reactive load, do you really want to carry it to the gig, or are you lazy like me and you want it all in one? Because that's what's magic about it, is you can just bring that head and you've got everything you need to go direct. You don't even need to bring a cabinet at that point. So to me, the goal of putting it all in one box is, even if you've got a reactive load, it's nice to have it all in one. So that makes it the most versatile. I did a video on trying to match the tone of my PT15 to the SL68, where I did come quite close. So you can watch that on YouTube and see what you think. How close? Kind of a raw plexi-ish tone on the SL68. And then I tried to dial it in. And you see what you think. If I got close. I think I got close. It's a little different because there's always something with a plexi where it's just different. When you don't have that extra gain stage in front of the circuit, and you crank the whole thing up to do the thing. Plus, it's got that amazing clean channel on it. So if you want versatility, I'd say, and you don't need to play like crazy loud all the time. I mean, all the way up to like club volume, because the 15 will do good club volume, I think. I think the 15IR is the most versatile. If you want true plexi, and that's really your thing, then a 68 is a great way to go. A PT100 is a versatile, big beast monster that, you know, you have to ask yourself like what you want to do. Like if you're, you know, if you need ultimate headroom. I know I just missed a super chat there. I'm going to come back to it. The $5 one. I'm going to find it. But, okay, where are we here? Let me find that. Anyways, I hope that's somewhat helpful. There's just nothing that'll ever, well, I don't want to say nothing. Actually, kind of working on something now, but there is something about the plexi that is just this thing that, you know, and a lot of people have kind of come back around to it these days that I'm seeing, you know, folks that, you know, frequent Friedman shop and stuff like that. Like I say, you know, big guitar players and stuff come back around to like, oh, just that Marshall thing like that. And part of it was because I know that we did that Eddie video where we dialed in that 69 and had it sounding so cool and stuff like that. People were like, I want that. Like that's, yes, that's the sound, you know, and it is this amazing sound that is somewhat difficult to get. And it's more work than a preamp gain only based amp. And there's speakers involved and everything matters. And it's like, but it is magical, you know? So it just depends, you know? For using pedals or playing, you know, clean tones too and stuff, obviously, you know, you're going to want the clean channel of the 15 or the 100, I think, at that point. But if you're a roll down the volume kind of person, you can get away with like just an LSL68. And it's an amazing thing, you know, the roll down for plexi cleans kind of thing. Like Richard Fortis was on a few weeks ago and he was talking about that. You know, that's his thing. It's like, yeah, I don't do channel switching. I get the sound out of the amp and roll down for clean. And he's fine with committing to that, which is cool, you know. Thanks for turning me on to Chris Cornell, says Robert. I heard his version of Billie Jean recently, was blown away. That was always a really fun one to do. I had great memories of that because I would start and, you know, I would just play the, you know, it's that 6/8 feel. And I would play the intro and he would come in and sing and he'd walk over and we'd be kind of eye to eye playing the whole first verse kind of thing a lot. That was magic, you know, it was fun. It was really fun. Fun one to do. I loved his take on that too. It was cool. So SRV 3 times in Toronto. Wow. Were you at the original? This is Mel. Were you at the original, the blah, 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 blah. What was it? The Hendrix twice. Sorry, I didn't even touch on that. That's amazing too. God, that's incredible. Maple Leaf Gardens. Hendrix at Maple Leaf Gardens. Wow. That's so cool that you saw that. Lost my train of thought. Were you at the El Macombo show? The famous El Macombo show. Tell us, Mel, in the chat. That's so cool. I'm envious. I saw Stevie once. Yeah, and it was so cool. And I stood right against the stage, and I'll always remember. I wish I could remember it better, but it was a lot of years ago. He was amazing. Yeah. High Flying Bird, says George Berry. That's Noel's. That's Noel's band. But what was the album called? I can't remember the name of the record. It's him on the cover, kind of a gray cover. It came out in 2013. That solo record's great. That's when I was really like, well, this guy can really write now. I mean, not that he couldn't, you know, but he was more basic. Like Oasis was great, and I loved the songs. And then he just sort of, and I'm sure he would say this. I mean, you know, he evolved into kind of like different. I mean, there's that song, The Right Stuff, I think it's called. There's these beautiful horns on it. This horn arrangement that's like so cool, you know. I don't know if he's responsible for that or if it was because I know there was a producer involved in that record that maybe felt like he didn't get his due, kind of from what I read in interviews around the time. But there's some beautiful horn arrangements going on there, and it's got this mood to it with the bass. You know, I love a song with a good bass drum thing that has like a mood that it sets, a feel. You know, be it "Pump It Up" by Elvis Costello or Mountain, what is it? Coming down a mountain, Jane's Addiction Mountain Song or whatever, or, you know, a song that's got a great pulsing bass thing. And this song has that, you know. Or what was that song by Massive Attack, you know? I can listen to that shit all day. That is so cool, you know. Anything that's got that, like an amazing bass part and drum thing, and then you build everything around that. God, that's the coolest thing ever. Almost cooler than guitar riffs. I'm a bass fan. Luke Guitar says he wants to upgrade his compressor. Is the Strymon Compadre really worth the bucks when there are so many cheaper options? I haven't tried the Strymon, but I will say I tried a great one lately, which is the Sir Andy Wood compressor. It's called the Woodshed, and I'm really liking it. I know Andy was a big fan of the Carl Martin originally, and he wanted to capture some of that vibe, and so it's very different, and it's a really, really great, really great compressor. So check out the and it's small, which is great because I'm going to use it on my board, I think, because I only have space for a small compressor on my board. So yeah. Jay Foster Guitar says El Macambo was an unreal show. Absolutely, it's one of my favorite concerts to still watch. 777 Danny EP is up there in the super chat and says hello and says thanks for the good vibes every week. Thank you. Yeah. I saw SRV twice, once in Bozeman, Montana, right on the border, right? Isn't it? I think. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. Let's see here. What else we got here? Just looking for some other questions and stuff. Taking a little pause here. Give me a second to find. What's the sound difference between the Fright power station with the KT88 and the 6L6? Well, good sir, I have a video coming for you either Monday or Tuesday. I'm doing a video finally on the power station. It ruled. I guess I've got a drinking problem. Power station. So the new one sounds even more transparent, and you'll hear that in the video that it's almost totally transparent. So whatever he dialed in when it comes to the load, as well as with the switches, as well as the different tubes. I'm not sure mine's KT88, something like 6550s, but you could probably interchange them with the bias and all that. But it sounds so transparent. The original one was good, but had a slightly different sound when you need. Still really good, And then beyond that, the 2 channels. That's a different thing. What else is different? The effect loop. Did the original? I can't even remember. I was trying to remember this yesterday. If the original has a loop, and I couldn't remember. But the effect loop that's foot switchable. The foot switchable channels is different. I know that, and just the transparency of the tone. I felt it was enough to upgrade when I heard it. And I love it. So anyways, the video is coming out. I'm playing my Sir Ombre, with the internal speaker right in it, showing that I can drop the level way down in the room. And then I'm also using my 50-watt Marshall through it, so you can hear what that sounds like, and volume matching the clips and all that. So I'm doing like the kind of the most important test is actually hearing it at unity gain. So playing the amp with the unit bypass through the cabinet, miking that, and then I dialed up unity gain. Now I'm loading down the amp, reamping it back through the thing, and at the exact same volume level, so that you can hear that engaging the power station because if you change the amount of push, of the amp and the speakers and the mics and everything, you're going to change the tone a little bit. If the speakers aren't driving as hard, and the more you go, the more that'll be a thing, right? So I thought, well, apples to apples at the exact same volume with the loading gauge, which it'll do because it's plenty powerful with that 100-watt tube power amp. It doesn't sound the same, and it's really like a negligible difference in the video you'll hear. And then I'm also going to go through and do 2 reduced volume levels, so all the way down to kind of like bedroom volume, and one kind of in the middle. And then I'll show you those like with the reduced level, and then also volume match, where I go in the DAW and I bring them back up to the same level, so you can hear the bedroom volume level and how that compares to the amp. And those will be, you might hear a little bit of difference, but at that point it's really down to the speaker not being driven as hard and stuff. And you wouldn't know anyway, because of the Fletcher Munson thing. When you lower the volume so much, your ears change. There's a whole bunch of super chats coming in. Who are all these people? It's David A. And he says, a few weeks back, your guilty pleasure comment regarding Britney Toxic. Yeah, Britney Toxic. That's one of my favorite songs of all time. You're toxic, I'm going under. Come on, that shit is amazing. Led me to insights that have helped me finish a mix. Oh, that's cool. It's an unbelievable production. Toxic. I would love to meet the people that were involved in doing that, because obviously there's Brittany, we know that she did it, but there's a whole team of people that, come on, there's like incredible strings and everything on there. Not saying that, not I'm giving Brittany her due. It was cool, but that song, when it came out, I was like, this shit is next level. And it's been out for 20 years or something now. So I'm glad that worked out. Thanks so much for the chats. Cannot wait for the video. Thank you. Love your surprise post during the week. Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate that. Thank you for doing the super chat. Chasing Yesterday is the album by Noel Gallagher that I love so much, with that song that I really dig on it. Chasing Yesterday. It's all about getting older. He talks about how we can't go back. That song's on there. We can't go back, which is like everybody that wants an Oasis reunion. He's like, yeah, we're getting older now. That's not, we can't revisit. He's kind of a interesting, like melancholy, insightful guy, I think. And I like in the Oasis documentary that's on, which is great. Even if you're a fan of the band or not, just watch it. It's cool. It's on Netflix, I think. It's on Netflix. Yeah, I think. Anyways, he talks about how people will never forget the way that you make them feel. And that was what Oasis did, was they created this vibe at the show that was just this cathartic thing that, and they don't forget the way that you make them feel. And I love that about, in this day and age when music seems to come and go, and it's very, that's, holding on to that special thing that, music made us feel. That's it. I don't know. It's a cool sentiment. But Chasing Yesterday is a lot of, I think he's getting close to 50 or whatever, and just lots of insight about getting older, and it's really cool. Reza says that he got a Zoji Rushi vacuum insulated mug. No more coffee spills on or off camera. And it keeps your coffee hot all day. I've got all those problems. I'm spilling on myself. My coffee's cold. I want to go get more, but I don't want to interrupt the stream. I might just run over there and fill up in a second here. What single coil pickup can I use on my Tele for a heavy humbucker sound? Well, I would probably go with either rails of some sort from either DiMarzio or maybe one of the, the little 59 at least, or JB. They make a JB and a 59, and you'd have to, I don't have experience with them. I think Andy Wood might have done a video on this. So check out Andy's video. I believe he did. He did a video on like getting a hot, heavy humbucker sound out of a Tele, and he tried a bunch of those different types of pickups. So you might want to check that out. That's my insight there that he's got. I got to give nod to Andy. Yeah. Did you watch the new Mammoth? Yeah, we even talked about this. A new video from Wolf playing all the instruments. Quite amusing and fun. Yeah, it was great, and great song. I love the riff, and I love the groove. It's funny because like about 4 weeks ago, I put out a video of a fuzz pedal called the Freak Out Fuzz or something, I can't remember, but anyways, it's a great fuzz pedal from Montreal, and it has the same groove and the same kind of riff. And I remember him liking the post on Instagram. I was like, I wonder if he thinks I stole his song before I could have, but that's not possible because I never even heard it, So anyways, I thought it was funny. I was like, wait a minute, didn't I write a riff really similar to this? But check it out. They're pretty close feel-wise. Mine's a little more like Black Keys sounding. His is a bit more like, yeah. But I love the video, and I love the end with the Pro Tools guy. He's the Pro Tools guy. Like, can you fix this? Oh, that was funny. So, and that's 5150 where they shot it. So that was cool. Really neat. You can see a little bit of it. You can see there's one scene at the beginning when you see the camera pan over and the guitars are hanging up kind of in the dark at the top. And I think a lot of people missed that. Like, because a lot of people were like, where was this done? I'm like, that's 5150. That's the door, the classic, when he walks in at the beginning. So I think I've told my story a little bit about the one time I went up there and Ed was playing, and, I got out of the car and the guitar was blazing out of 5150. It was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then I walk up to the door and he's standing in there in his bathrobe playing in front of me for like 15 minutes. And it was like the coolest day of my life. But that's the door, that gray door, the door was open when I walked up and he's standing in there. It was like, church or something. It was like the Vatican of Van Halen. I don't know. So amazing. Who's up there in the Neil H999 says, thanks for the show, Pete. What music biz do's and don'ts have you learned from the people you've worked with? Perhaps pitfalls that aren't obvious. I did a lot of this kind of stuff in my So You Want to Be a Pro Musician series. So you might want to reference those, but if you've already seen them, if you look on my YouTube, there's a playlist called So You Want to Be a Pro Musician. There's a lot of stories and anecdotes and things I share about like what to do and what not to do. And, you know, the number one thing is don't be an asshole. That's the most important thing. And, you know, even stories I was talking about with some friends yesterday, it's like, yeah, like, don't be a jerk. Don't do things. Don't get, you know, your ego so blown out of proportion that you lose perspective on things like band chemistry and how important that is. And, you know, thinking that you can do it all and all that kind of stuff. But, do's and don'ts, you know, just remember you're going to see the people that you saw on the way up back on the way down again. So the way that you treat people, you know, my friend Jen Condos was in a band called Tito and Tarantula, and they had a song called See You on the Way Down. And that's the way that that's what it was about. All the jerks in the music business, you know, that's going to come around, come back to you again, just karma stuff. So that's really what it comes down to, is being a good person and always trying to maintain good relationships. I saw people torpedo their careers that I played with because of being jerks, you know, or not, you know, acknowledging folks, you know, clearly not remembering people. That, like, if somebody works at a label, right, or something, and they're working, let's say, in the marketing department, and you've met them like numerous times, and then down the road they're like, hey man, what's going on to you? And you don't remember them, and you're like, oh hey, what's up, you know, and you clearly don't remember them. That can have an effect on they're like, I've met you like numerous times, and and then because they're working in the marketing department, so you might not see them as that important or something, but the reality is they're going to be the ones pushing your album when you put it out. So I've seen people literally like things like that and kind of tanking their, you know, at the end of the day, a corporation is full of people, and, you know, you can't treat, I don't know, where am I going with this? You just have to treat people well. You know, and we make these mistakes. I mean, I can't claim that I always was the nicest person to everybody, you know, or that I didn't mistreat people occasionally or say things that I shouldn't have. I did, you know, at times, you know, and a couple times. I remember one time being a dick to a guy that was on a crew, and he did do something stupid, but I was really mean about the way that I responded. You know, he did something wrong. But regardless of the fact that he had done something wrong, he didn't deserve to, you know, like I said something that was rude or whatever to him. And he's like, hey, you can't talk to me like that. You know, I remember him saying that to me. Like, don't ever talk to me like that. You know, outside of this job and everything, just on a human level, like he could have, you know, he could care less about it at that point, about the job. It's just like, you need to treat me with respect. And he stopped me kind of in my tracks, because I think at the core, I had good parents that raised me right, and, you know, all that stuff, and taught me how to be respectful. But I think that things can get, you know, you can have a good gig for a while, and it can get to your head or whatever, and you might start acting a little different. He kind of checked me, and it was cool, you know, and I always remember that because it was like, he said that, and I was like, it pulled me right back into, like, you know, my baseline of like trying to be a good person and all that my folks had taught me. And I knew he was right. And I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. Like, and I'm sorry, I won't do that. You're right. I overreacted, or you know, it wasn't the right thing. And I apologize. Apology can go a long way in life. You know, I find a good apology, and showing true, you know, I don't know if remorse is a strong word. You better have done something bad, but showing true, like, you know, understanding that sometimes you overstep your boundaries, because everybody's human. Nobody's perfect. You know, this is where, when we were talking about John earlier, you know, about John Mayer, and, you know, he's gone through his ups and downs, like with social media and all that stuff. And, you know, he's, like I say, he struck me as a really cool guy. Yeah, you know, we deserve to give people, like, you know, or sorry, the people deserve to, to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like seek, forgiveness, I guess. And, if they're genuine about it and stuff, we should give people second chances and, to a point. I mean, I'm not talking about like if you're a serial killer or something, but, being rude to somebody or being a little egotistical or whatever, if you've come to your senses and later on you're like, hey, I wasn't very nice to some people at times. And, I think it's good I don't like the idea of baggage, the carrying around, and people being mad at one another and all that bullshit over years and years and years and all that, resentment eats you up, So that's the number one thing, I guess, is you making me think here. The number one thing is being a good person and trying to get along with people and realize that at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to matter. Yeah, it's just music, Ooh, boys, he play guitar and write songs. Wow. We're not saving lives here. Maybe we are, but not like it's not, it's not brain surgery or whatever, Thanks for the show, says, oh, wait, I think I answered that one already. That was the one I just answered. Sorry. Anyways. L. Scott Music says, who'd ever have thought we'd make it to when Toxic has become classic pop? I know, right? The thing about that production sounds so, like, production got to a point where that song could be done now and it would still sound modern. It's, you know how there's a sound of the 50s and then the 60s and then the 70s and then the 80s and then the 90s to a degree. And then we get into and now it's like, is there really like I guess the sound of modern production is more an aesthetic, like the, hi-hat thing that's in modern pop or whatever. But that's like a choice that people are making, right? That's, what I'm getting at is like Toxic sounds fresh, It sounds like it could have been done yesterday and it would be modern production. So I think computers and technology and plugins and all that and recording all got to a point where, okay, now we just, if anything, it sounds like a throwback or like what's modern, what else is there to do when it comes to sonics that hasn't kind of been done, where else I'm not saying like, it's like, oh, it's all been done, but I'm sort of saying it's all been done. It's more about writing the song and picking you can do anything now with like, the sounds and stuff. And it's maybe been that way for the last going on 20 years, I think. So, yeah. What's going on here? Can you do a video comparing the Synergy SLO to the SLO 100, putting the Synergy through the loop of the SLO? I could. I think it's probably going to sound really, really close. A big part of the SLO to me is the power section. It does tend to, because I did this a little bit where I was comparing the sound of like the Synergy module through the PT100 power amp of the SLO, right? Synergy SLO through the PT100, and then the Synergy through the Synergy power amp, and then the Synergy through, like depending on the power amp use. And it did change the kind of the EQ character, and that's just down to, we have to recognize that like damping, negative feedback, the presence circuit. People talk about the transformers. Yes, that's a thing, but there's a lot of other factors in the tone of a power amp. The amount of negative feedback, the amount of damping, and the presence and depth. If there's a depth, there's a circuit that's fixed. All these things affect, So I think that what you'll find is that if I was to run the Synergy SLO module, what I'm getting at, into the return of the SLO, it'll sound really close. But are you going to do that? I don't know that it's that valid of a comparison. What power amp are you going to run it into would be the more, I think the preamp's just, follows the topology or whatever of the actual thing, and it's very close and all that stuff. Running it into an SLO, you're never going to do that, because if you had a real SLO, you would just be using that, right? So it might be more interesting to hear it into different power amps or something, because it does change the sound. It doesn't sound exactly the same. You can tweak it, dial it, but then you've gotten a little bit away from the circuit and it matters, Yeah, not enough cowbell in modern music. Man, I love a good cowbell. Come on. Good cowbell. Come on. I don't know why I said that, but Jay Foster says the quality of the transformer. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing, but I don't think it's all that, There's the circuit, like whether or not, like I say, the negative feedback, the depth, all these things. If you've got a PT100, if you're messed with one, play with the negative feedback control and listen to what a big effect it has on the sound. That's all the power amp. Most power amps just have that fixed. It's a fixed value. It's like when you sweep it, it's like, okay, this is kind of like having another control that's as powerful as the presence, right? And it affects the tone and the feel. So yeah, there's a transformer, sure, it's a thing, but there's all these other factors too. People always talk about the SLO transformers with this mythical, I was going to say, sure. Anyways, what's the best way to run distortion pedals to a head and cabinet? Yeah, that's Carl. Love your YouTube channel. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. The best way is in front of the amp, I think, unless it's a preamp style pedal. So something like the Origin Revival Drive that you can switch to be like a preamp. Because most pedals are voiced to work in front of the amp. So, my buddy Ola, he's done some videos where he demonstrates. He likes to run them sometimes into the return of tube amps, which can be cool. And he makes them work, and whatever works is the answer, I guess. But generally speaking, pedals are designed with running into the clean channel of an amp in mind by the designer. So that's what you want to do. I hope that's an answer. I'm not sure if that's exactly what you were asking, but you want to run them towards the beginning of your pedal board chain before delay, generally, unless you want the delay to be really loud and out of control, which can be a cool sound. But generally, you want before delay, before reverb, before modulation, except for phaser. Phaser can be really cool in front of distortion, sometimes flanger. There are no rules. There are no rules except when there is. Metalhead Hippie says, "Hey, Pete, what's up, man?" Here's a question about Z-Rex, unbelievable amp. How would you run a Trainwreck style amp? Have you ever played a Dr. Z? I've played a couple Dr. Zs, not a lot. I think I've tried only modeled versions of the Z-Rec, which sound cool to me and sound kind of like that thing. I mean, I have Comets, which are Ken Fisher circuits. And so when I think of Trainwreck, and I've played 4 or 5 real Trainwrecks. I never played a Liverpool. I wanted to try one of those, but I've played, which is probably similar to your Rec Junior. It's a EL84, right? I think. The ones I played were all Expresses, which is a ZL34 design that was about 40 watts or 38 watts or something. And they varied a lot. It was almost like Dumble, where he would voice them. I played 2 one day that were like, one belonged to George Lynch and one belonged to Billy Gibbons. Very different. The Billy Gibbons one was way lower gain, and the George Lynch one was almost like a Marshall Plexi. The thing that I noticed with the Trainwrecks is the harmonic thing. They have a lot of harmonics, like juicy, and where they're very dynamic. Roll down the volume, they really respond, and there's all these harmonics. And sometimes you'll play a note, and it'll take off into 3, like angels. Like the sound of the angels. I don't know. So you know what I'm saying. That was what I remember about trying a Comet Concord the first time. I bent a note, turned it up, and it started feeding back, and the harmonics came in on top, and I was like, oh. And then within a month I had one, because it was like, that's a great amp. So it's that harmonic, juicy, dynamic, lots of stuff going on. They're like in some ways like a more refined, at least the Express. It was a more squishy, slightly softer sounding than a Marshall 50, which sounded a little bit. If you play them back to back, like my Concord back to back with my Marshall 50, the Marshalls always sound a little more untamed and a little more ratty, which can be what you want or not what you want. The Concord, for instance, sounds it's like a really rich, refined Marshall Plexi. And by refined, I don't mean tamed. Like, they just don't have a ratty edge to them. They've got this richness through the mids that's really cool. Yeah, it's like a slightly like what you wish Marshall had done in the 70s or something with that design, like where it should have gone instead of going the way that they did go, which was, I always find 2203s and 2204s kind of sound, without mods, they sound sort of bloated and not tight. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were saying, yeah, I'm battling the sort of slightly futzy low end on my, I think it's a 100-watt JCM 800. I was like, yeah, they do that. That's just how they sound. But you can mod it to be amazing, but they push a lot of bass through the front end and just kind of, and yet they're not real high gain. So it's just slightly loose, not real high gain. That's the problem I have with JCM 800s and that ilk. Smitry is getting another coffee. I tell you what, I'm going to go another 15 minutes or so because I can, but I'm not going to do it coffeeless. So excuse me for 1 second while I fill up my Sunset Sound mug. And I'm back. And we're back. God. I need to stretch after this. Sitting like this on the couch is no lower lumbar support. All right. What else we got here? What are you guys doing? What are you talking amongst yourselves? Oh, we still have 578 people online. Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here. There's a link in the video description below if you need, let's say, a Audio-Technica USB microphone. Notice I don't have a stand, it's just sitting on the chair. I'm purchasing my laptop on. Or if you need, I don't have any gear to grab this week. A guitar cable, you know what I'm saying. It's my affiliate link, Sweetwater. It always supports the channel, and I do appreciate it. If you need kazoos or guitar picks, yeah. I'm not quite sure I understand this question from DW. Vintage guitar and new amp, or vice versa, like vintage amp and new guitar? Oh, I see. I think with amps, there's a thing to vintage amps for sure, but I think that it's more of a box of parts that can be pretty much replicated with modern stuff. Recently I'm getting this Top Hat King Royale because it's a great AC30. The exact same damn thing happened to me 20 years ago with top hats, where I wanted an old Marshall and I went and played like 15 of them. Now, had I known the folks I know now, who I didn't know back then, I could have got any number of vintage Marshalls, and I know I could have fixed them up and made them sound great. But they all kind of sounded crappy to me. They probably needed to be recapped, and maybe there'd been mods done that needed to be reversed and different stuff on all these Marshalls I tried. I went to Black Market Music, and they always had in LA. It was an amazing store. But they always had a ton of kind of player grade stuff that had maybe been, be a Marshall. Somebody drilled the hole in the side for it, put a fan in or something dumb, stuff like that. So I played a lot of old heads this one day, and I remember looking around for like a week or something. I couldn't find anything. And then I walked into Guitar Center in Sherman Oaks, and they had an Amplexador, which is basically a 50-watt plexi circuit with a few mods and switches that you can switch in and out and stuff to change up the tone. And it'll do like kind of modern sounds, and it'll also do sort of vintage sounds really well. I played it. It was tagged at $900 or something. The input jack was slightly scratchy in it and was kind of intermittent, but I could get it to work in the store. And I remember saying to the guy, this is kind of broken. Like, can I get a discount? And I think I got it for $750, and I bought it because it was like, it sounded great. And I knew Brian, so I took the amp down to him. He went, oh yeah, I built this like 4 years ago. That's my Brian voice. Oh yeah, I built this like 4 years ago. He's a great guy. And he fixed up the input jack and sent me away. And now I had a great Marshall that was awesome. What's my point? Well, I'm buying this King Royale right now because I've been on a similar search for AC30s, and they can be even more temperamental, the old ones, and sketchy, and they're very expensive now. This amp I came across it and it just sort of fell in my lap. And I used to have one, so there's a bit of sentimental thing. 20 years ago, I had a King Royale too. It's a great AC30. It sounds like a great AC30. It does. I mean, it just does. It sounds amazing. You know, plugged into the right cabinet. It's an AC30. It sounds amazing. So I'm getting it because it's like I just need a good AC30, and I don't necessarily. It doesn't. It'd be nice if it was Vox with a copper panel and all the stuff, but at the end of the day, on a recording, does anybody care? You know. So having said all that, I think a vintage guitar, it's easier to. I'm gonna plug my computer in. The power's not plugged in. There we go. It's easier to replicate. You know, it's easier to find and replicate a vintage amp and less expensive than a vintage guitar. If there's a vintage guitar that speaks to you, that's a harder, more mystical kind of thing. Does that make sense? The amp is you can get modern alternatives that are really cool. Before this disappears, wondering if you ever messed around with the old Digitech RP1000. That's something that people talk about, and I never did. I never tried an RP1000. People seem to like that thing. It's got real fans. I think Jennifer Batten, maybe that's why I'm thinking of it, because a lot of people started using that thing, and then it's like their centerpiece of the rig or something, you know. And so that's interesting. Peter Evans is up there too. Sorry, I've never tried one. My extent of using Digitech gear. I used to have a DSP 128 or something. Anybody remember that thing? That you could do 2 or 3 effects at once. It had modulation and reverb and delay, and that was in my rack with my Mesa Pre. It was kind of okay. I remember I got rid of it and I got a Rocktron Replifex later. That was way better. I remember that. Modern Digitech gear, they put out some great stuff. That Polera reverb was really nice. And the Freakout is on my board. I love that thing. So Peter Evans says, great Sunday show. Thanks, man, for the coffee fund. I do appreciate it. I'm drinking snobby coffee today. Boy, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. Ben Coombs says he's 74 people away from 3,000 subscribers on his channel. Much love. Everybody subscribe to Ben. He's a good guy, and he's here every week. He's my faithful moderator. He had to smack down a troll last week. I remember that. He was on the case. What's that? The video you did for TC Electronic dialing in an amp, you used a 2203, and it didn't sound too bad. That's true. That one sounded pretty good. It was okay, that amp. I remember. It was cool. It's like, yeah, that's good. That's the vibe. They're good. I'm not saying they're not good. I just find them to be better. When I'm a snob, dude, because it's like I know between Sir and Friedman, a PT100 is a modified JCM 800. I mean, really, it's close to a JCM 800 circuit, closer than it is to a Plexi. But they're both very close anyway. We're talking about not big differences here. But really, John's mods and Marshall circuits are largely based around JCM 800. Which I've learned a lot about these recently. And with a Plexi, you've basically got whatever the topology of a Plexi, and then with a JCM 800, you've got a gain stage into whatever. Oh no, I'm going to screw it up. I can't remember. But there's the cold gain stage after that, and then it's like you're adding a gain stage in front, but then you got kind of a weak gain stage, and it's it's adding more gain to the Plexi circuit, but not like really a lot. Not exactly the same as like a Jose or a BE or even the PT100, where there's like more gain in that second stage. And also it's where you trim the low end out of the circuit so that you don't get all that in the sound, where it's kind of, I like the gain, but I'm palm muting and it's loose. I don't know. Yeah, Byron says, your stream sounds great. I hate when streamers have a mic in front of their face. You mean something like this? Yeah, I've just put it on the chair, honestly, because I don't have a mic stand here. And it's an Audio-Technica, some sort of USB microphone. Let's look at it. I think it works pretty well. I've had it for a long time. The 2020 USB is the model. At work, I use my Samson, but I leave this one at home for just these types of occasions. If I use the internal mic, I can hear it right now. My laptop fan seems to really like running, even when I'm barely doing anything. And yeah, it always like the fan gets in the mic and it's awful. So good to use an external microphone of some sort. We still got 586 people online. Let's keep going for a few minutes here. Any experience with the Legendary Tones Hot Mod 2 or Lynch Mod? That kind of is, you're basically adding a gain stage once again to an 800 circuit. So no, I haven't, but I kind of interested. Actually, I was talking to Dave about that, and I mean, it's an interesting idea. I would like to hear one of those in a 2203 or 04 circuit and listen to what it sounds like. I mean, you're kind of with that other gain stage, you're maybe getting up into, Soldano gain territory, I guess. Like, because, all these amps are basically, you're adding gain stages. You're adding 12AX7 gain to 12AX7 gain to some degree or another. And then depending on where that comes in the circuit, where the EQ is in the circuit in between these gain stages and stuff, all affects the sound. And it's how you tune the sound of that gain stage using caps or resistors or whatever the hell electronic components to cut maybe high end or low end coming out of the gain stages, so that it tunes the amount of lows that are coming out of the gain and feeding into the next stage, and then that's feeding into the next stage and all that. So that's basically what it is, the legendary tones thing. You're adding another gain stage. It's like adding a tube boost coming after the downstream from the first two, It's similar, like the original CAA PT100, the first one, the not Sir branded one. It had a tube boost downstream from the first stuff. Yeah, whereas like a Jose is in front of all the stuff. It's putting another tube in front or putting another tube downstream. Another gain stage. So, and John did it that way in the original CAA amp because it was less noise. When you put it further down the circuit for whatever reason, you put gain stage in front, you get this added noise that's feeding into the, do it later on. It doesn't do that for whatever reason. So I don't know why the noise from the first stages don't make it noisier going into that one. You would have to ask him. He would have a great answer for that. This is geeky stuff. We've degenerated. Is that the word? We've devolved into super geeky tube talk. Vancouver Island, what's up, Hip Metalworks? What's happening? Okay, here's a question. For home practicing and recording, would you use an HX Stomp or your favorite amp with a Sir reactive low die or on a pedal board? What would Pete do? Dude, an HX Stomp is a very powerful thing. So if you're in a hotel room or at a small, I don't know. I mean, if you've got 5 patches that you love to practice through, great. Obviously I love having my pedal board in the studio. I have my pedal board set up all the time in the studio now. And then I'm feeding into my amp switcher so I can go to any of my amps, including the PT15 or the PT100. What would I do? I mean, I would do what makes you play more and makes you enjoy the process. That's the most important thing. If it's simplicity, maybe the HX Stomp is fine. Most folks that are going to have a PT15 and a pedal board are probably going to be doing more than just practicing at home. If you got that stuff, maybe not, but maybe you want to get out and play or do some sessions or do some gigs and stuff if you have more. I find in those situations, it's nice to have the same rig. That's one thing I really like, is keeping my rig consistent. So I'm used to using my pedal board and my presets and my sounds, and then I take those with me, So that's one factor where it's like, if you've got that other stuff, and because you could gig with an HX Stomp, sure. But, what are you going to do for a cab and all that stuff? So it's like, if you like the experience of a cabinet and all that stuff, it's nice to have this stuff. And then, so the PT15, it's like a very compact, super powerful tube amp, honestly, that really gets you far. I hope I didn't miss a super chat up there. I think it was one that had been there for a while. First time Marshall Bayer says, Jimmy Jack Jones, and I don't care. First time Marshall Bayer, got a class 5 combo 10, trying to dial in with my Les Paul. Any tube switch or speaker suggestions to tame the low end? You want to tame the low end on a class 5. See, there's that lows thing that happens with a lot of Marshalls. Speaker suggestions. Well, it's a 10. I mean, a greenback 10 is a beautiful thing. If it doesn't have a greenback in it already, I would try one. It's a huge improvement over most there's not as many 10s out there as there is 12s, right? But the The 10-inch greenback, 10-inch gold is cool too, but I think for the sound you want, the Marshall sound, I mean, the 10-inch green is a beautiful thing. So I don't know if it's going to tame lows specifically, though. You know, to do that, you might want to get something in front, like a Horizon makes those pedals called Nano Attack, and it's basically, it tightens the lows, you know, going into the front of the amp. You might want to try that. A couple clicks on that in front, a mini pedal, and it can really, then you can turn it up and it can get really aggressive. And once again, you're just sort of doing the thing I was talking about earlier, where it's taming the lows going into the gain stages. You know, where you do that, the circuit can help. But also just, that's what a tube screamer does. It gives you gain and also lops off lows, and that's why people like it, to tighten amps. Check out that Horizon thing, though. If you basically like the sound, but you're finding it boomy and not tight enough, it really works. It is a cool little pedal, you know. And their overdrive, the precision overdrive, I think it's called, is like a screamer circuit, I think, essentially, but with that too, where you can tune the amount of lows that get cut out. It's neat, useful. More than any tube switch or anything like that. If it's got a JJ in the first slot, they'll get rid of that. The ECC83. Although I tried the new E83CC, if you're not confused yet, from JJ, is a great tube. They're a little bit expensive, about $20, but it's not the same as the ECC83. The E83CC is a new design that's supposed to be a copy of the old Tesla super short plate tube. Ample high end, no mud. It sounds great. So there you go. New JJ. I give it a try. It's good. Arturo is there in the super chat. He's in Europe. He says Pete Thorn 3. Pete Thorn 3. I'll do it. It might come in a different form, though. EP, singles. I don't know. Pickup recommendations on top of Thornbuckers for turning my SSS Sir Classic into a HH with more modern but also versatile sound. Well, you got to use Thornbuckers. What do you mean? More modern but also versatile? I mean, it depends what you want. Thornbuckers are great if you want to do the PAF thing. Watch Tracy's video yesterday. Tracy Guns did a video on where he took a new Les Paul and he put the classic old combination of a super distortion and a DiMarzio PAF in the neck. There's a different sound. You know, he really likes it because the middle position he was really, and it did sound really cool, actually. The middle position, it's got a great scooped kind of, because the PAF he is 7 point something, you know, the one in the neck, it's that pickup from DiMarzio. It's low output, and that combined with the varying outputs of the pickups did make for a very scooped middle on the kind of cool Jimmy Pagey kind of thing. But a super distortion in the bridge has a very, into a Marshall, it's just got this great rock sound. I don't know. It's a cool thing. I love it now. I always hated ceramic magnet pickups when I was a kid, but I guess I just closed my mind to them. Now I'm recognizing it's a cool sound. They've got sizzle and they've got this flatter mids and big bottom end thing. It's a very big sound into an old plexi that just works. It's a cool sound, you know, that Ace Frehley and Eddie Van Halen, and I mean, I'm pretty sure Eddie Van Halen and who else? Tom Schultz, I think he used them. It's cool. I know it's not modern, but it does do the thing, you know. I think I've come to the realization I'm not really into hot Alnico 5 pickups or hot Alnico 2 pickups so much. I think the hotter pickup size maybe like the ceramics, although the Wolfgangs are cool. So Wolfgang pickups, you know, that's another one. Wolfgangs are good. You could try a set of those if you don't want to do the Thornbuckers. You want to go with a little bit hotter thing, depending on the body of the Classic, what it's made of. I mean, they're pretty neat. They're a good set. You know, I like them when I want a heavy tone and I want a down tune and I want to do some rock, I grab my Wolfgang sometimes, you know, so there you go. You know, I just find that most of the, you know, like the JB thing, I'm just not the biggest fan. I mean, it kind of the Alnico 5 hot mids thing that push all that mid range into the amp for rhythm sounds. For solos, it's great. Single notes, it's no brainer. You know, JB is a great thing. But for cleaner sounds or more classic, it doesn't sound that classic to me. There's something about a ceramic magnet. I can't believe I'm saying this because I always hated ceramic magnets, but I just come to realize they don't push the mids as hard. They've got more of this even kind of boosted character to them that isn't this target. I'd love to look at the resonant peak of a super distortion or something, see what it looks like compared to like a JB. Yeah, there's just something about that wine that I don't know. I like them now. This is interesting. I don't know. Your favorite overdrive pedal? I don't really have a favorite, but I love Klons in front of a Marshall. It's a great thing. It kind of has a slightly more organic sound than a tube screamer, but I like tube screamers too. I like a good tube screamer in front of a Marshall for solos. I love Klons generally, you know. So the Archer is the one that I use with the Jeff Beck mods. Dig it. What inspired you to start playing guitar? There was a kid that moved into my hood that got me listening to music. He was a few years older than me, and he'd moved into town. He was from he was from Vancouver, and he had this huge record collection. So initially it was like, I found this kid intriguing because he would listen to, it was right at that age where I was about 10, you know, and I was like starting to get an interest in music, and he was really into the Who and the Jam, and then a lot of other stuff like Van Morrison, Beach Boys, and, you know, like I'm talking cool Beach Boys, like Pet Sounds, and, you know, Frank Zappa, and he would listen to all this stuff. So he got me really into the Who and the Beatles, and, you know, and I started listening to music, and then he showed me a few chords on the guitar because he could play keys and guitar. And that was it. I was like, holy shit, I can play I Can't Explain by the Who, and it sounds like it. Oh, I love this. This is cool, you know? And just, I mean, come on, Pete Townsend sliding on his knees with his arm in the air. And I was just like, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life, you know? Of course, then I got my sister was an influence on me too, because she was into heavier music, and she'd got an affinity for, you know, Black Sabbath and Thin Lizzy and then Metallica when they first came out, which nobody, you know, like Ride the Lightning came out. She was Kill 'Em All. Like even then she was into that, the really early stuff. And that just sounded like viciousness. You know, nobody had ever heard anything that sounded like that because they were really revolutionary at that point. And that was like, whoa, it's almost scary, like how aggressive it was, you know, at the time when you're like 11. Ooh. You know, so all that, I got the bug for all that, you know. And my friend was the one that was the more like the singer-songwriter or more bandy, kind of like not metal. He thought metal was dumb, you know. And then my sister was the metal, you know, so I was getting both sides. And I kind of had to hide my affinity from my friend of metal, or he would have thought I was not cool, you know. Like I say, he was into the Jam and really cool English bands and stuff. It's like, you know, rockers and mods, basically. Matt Lipschultz is up there in the super chat, and he says, I find that I almost always add a mild V-shaped EQ in the post EQ of all my Axe 3 presets. Do you have a problem somewhere in my tone that this is compensating for it if I use it all the time? Dude, not really. You know what? In recordings, I do that a lot, and you're going to find a lot of mids are taken out of. Guitar sounds can tend to be quite MIDI, and sometimes that's okay. And then other times you want to just like 250, 500, whatever, maybe going up to 900, then maybe leave the 1 and 2K, and then like, you know, or maybe not. Maybe there's a dip in there somewhere around 1K even, and then like up the high frequencies you tend to bump. And that's what you're describing. And that's pretty common even when miking a guitar cabinet or using good IRs or whatever it is, many times sucking some mid-range out of the sound just gives it it makes it sit in the mix better and feel a little less like annoying or something. The mixed tone of, I mean, you know, just a little more. I'm pretty sure, I mean, they had to have done that on Van Halen, I think, for that tone. It's a little bit of mids taken out, you know, just to make it sound like it does. It smooths out the sound or something. I don't know, and leaves some space. Does a cool thing. It's still aggressive and all that, but it just gives it a, I don't know what it is. It's a je ne sais quoi. Michael is there in the top chat, super chat as well. And he says, in your experience, is there a paying market for guitar instrumental music? Yes. And do you think it works best to release as albums, EPs, or singles? Well, I have whole theories on this stuff. Let me come back to that in just a second, because it's going to be a longish answer. First, I'll do this. Best pedal for a honky mid boost. The Q Boost that I did a video for recently. I can't remember the name of the company. Stone Deaf. That's it. Stone Deaf Q Boost. Amazing. Check it out. Honky mid boost right there. Also, for a little bit more maybe versatility and maybe not quite as aggressive a mid boost, but really cool. My favorite is the Coco Boost from Sir. It's awesome. So you could check either of those out. Yeah. And one more super chat here. And then I'll come back to the question about releasing instrumental music. Hello, Pete. Royer R121 or SEVR1? Both nice, similar. maybe not a big preference. I would probably go VR1 because it's a little less money, but a 122 is a big step up. So a Royer 122 is a beautiful thing because it has a really nice, clear, extended top end. I tried Dan Boole's for a while. He lent it to me, and I used it for a little while. I'll give you a great budget alternative in a second. But the 122, the beautiful thing is he said, you're not maybe even going to feel the need to mix a 57 in with it. It'll sound very natural. I was like, really? Like, because a 121 to me always sounds great, but dark and not good on its own generally, unless it's a clean, very natural guitar sound, like a combo, and you can maybe back the mic up 2 feet from the amp in a room or 3 feet. And it gives this beautiful representation of the amp in the room. That's really great. But if you want it to do the kind of like, rock tone or whatever, you kind of need to blend in a dynamic with it. A 122 though, got a better top end, extended kind of top end. So my budget alternative for all of these is the ST170 from Sterling, which is Guitar Center's brand. I think it's a knockoff of a 122 because it's got a pre in it, and you can give it phantom power. It's loud, got lots of output, and it's got a great sound. So check that one out as well. That'll turn your head around a little bit. Maybe it looks like you might be in a place where maybe those mics aren't too. Is that maybe you're in Czech Republic or something? Maybe. So I don't know if they have those over there, but maybe you can get one used or something too, or maybe just order one from the States. I'm not sure. But if you want to, I think they're only like $200 US. They're so cheap. So great. A Royer R10, says Steven, haven't tried that one. 121 and 122 are the only ones I've actually personally tried. Okay. Releasing music these days. Something I've noticed is that it's disposable, it seems, unless the song really sticks. And, people put out songs and they just kind of go away, and it's like you hear about it for a week or not even, and then they move on to the next thing. It's a tough thing. Although a lot of you folks here are probably a bit more like maybe older generation, a lot of you, and aren't so much like that. You'll tend to stick with things longer. It seems like the younger generation thing is like music just kind of comes and goes a little bit. So I sort of think that the traditional album format, because of that, releasing a whole album is tough because people's attention span is so short. So you put out the whole damn thing. Do they even listen to the whole thing? It kind of comes and goes quick. So I think coming up with a novel release schedule, if you want to put out a group of songs, is a good thing. And people do this all the time now, but I think releasing singles, Wolfgang has done it a little bit with his album and rock music, right? He's put out, I think, 3 singles now or 4. So it's kind of, we're getting to the point where we're getting to halfway through the record almost, right? At 4 songs. He's put out 40% of the music already. So, that's kind of the way to do it because it gets you out there and gives people a little taste as you go. And then maybe once you've got 4 or 5 out, then you can put out the album. But I had this idea a while ago, and you tell me what you think, but it's just an idea like for my own music. What if you put out a song every month for 9 or 10 months? Just always stayed out there. And then at the end of all of that, because does anybody care if it's packaged like an album anymore if they're just going to stream it? What you do at the end of all of that, of releasing a song every so often, is you bundle it as an album at the end with maybe a bonus track or 2. So this allows you to, instead of putting the whole thing together, which can be really time consuming and, a real commitment, instead of having to put together 10, 11, 12 songs and then do all the artwork and everything, and put it all out and have it kind of disappear after a week, putting out a song every month till you get to 8 or 9 songs, and then finally bundle it as an album at the end with all the songs with the extra 2 tracks as a bonus and maybe something else. So if it's instrumental guitar music, maybe you do what I did on Guitar Nerd, which is you bundle it with a download of a guitar lesson showing people how to play one of the solos off the record or 3 of the solos off the record. Right? Somebody's saying playthroughs, secret story. I kind of hate playthrough videos where it's like a video, like a rock video, and somebody's like aping instrumental shred. I don't know. I don't get that. If it's actually the person playing the thing, then it's cool. But, like a video to go with each every month, maybe, because it's obviously easier. And if you have a normal job or something too, or you got other things to do, it's easier to put out a song a month than it is to put together 12 songs and put them all out at once. That requires a lot of, if you've got a goal, which is like, all I need to do is record one cool sounding track every month with maybe a video, a teaser video, or maybe a full, like you say, playthrough. It's just not my thing, but then, right. You know what I mean? And then you stay out there all the time, which is really important in today's social media thing. This is why I'm here every Sunday, because you can count on me, and a lot of you guys come back. If you can count on me to be here every Sunday, sometimes I'm 5 minutes late, but I'll be here. Then it helps build a thing where people come back. So it's the same philosophy with releasing music. I think there's something to it, and it's how I would like to do it now. Either that or just do an EP instead of a whole album of 12, 10 songs, you put it out, it kind of goes away, I think it's a better, you're always out there then. Because think about the way social media works now. It's like Instagram, Facebook, you open it every day and you look at it. So what if this guy, Pete Thorn, whoever is, he's got another song. Forget about it because you got a lot of shit going on, everything competing for your interest. Oh, he's got another song. Oh, he's got another song 3 weeks later or a month later, right? It helps you stay out there and I think it's more effective, to build long-term somebody's saying that, somebody's saying that streaming has destroyed the experience of the album format. There it is. Streaming music has ruined the album experience. And the album experience is a really beautiful thing, and I agree that has happened. But we also have to keep in mind that albums were not even a thing before. When was the first full-length album, LP? It used to be 78s, and singles were a big deal still in the 60s and stuff. Like the whole concept of the album thing, it was only maybe it was only 30, 40 year, which in the span of history of music is nothing, right? I keep, like I always remind people, recorded music's only been a thing for, a century, a little more. But, it hasn't really been around as a thing. So in the great big span of things, the music business as it was and the way that we all structured it is just a thing during our lifetime that happened. It was a very cool, special time, but it's evolving and changing. And that's just been the nature of technology and everything. And that's the way it's going to go. And so you can either fight it and go, it was better back in my day. Maybe, but let's find fun new ways to do it, which for me has been, I put out a song every time I do a demo. It's a 1.5 minutes long, and that's just I view YouTube honestly as a music delivery service. And it's why you guys know about me, because I just put out music all the time, and it's kind of the same thing. I'm just constantly putting out music in demos, and you get a little new song from me every so often. There's still little pieces of music, so working with the things that we have now and seeing it as like, okay, it's not going to be the same. Let's just not lament, and let's just move forward. And how can that's what I'm interested in doing, without discrediting the fact that album rock was really cool and, and whatever the idea of, an album was, and I still think you can pull people into that, if you put out a song every month and you made it a concept album, a story, it's just going to pull people back. It's going to be like a TV show that people like want to come see week after week. Right. If you did it and they're not too spaced far apart, what if every song led into one another and it all made sense all the way along? That'd be cool. Like, and you just give people a taste every, like a TV series. I don't know what's wrong with that. And then it's still an album and people might and then you got to download the album to get the last track or whatever, so people are like, I want to know how it winds up. I don't know. It's cool, right? Use it to your advantage. Maybe musically they all segue, like where if it's a guitar instrumental album, maybe that one goes into the next, and then you want to see where it goes, and it all makes sense once you get to the end. It's all one big piece of music. That'd be cool. No? Maybe not. Creighton is there in the super chat. I'm going to go soon because getting long-winded now. 2.5 hours. That's long enough. It's long enough for me on Sunday. You guys got other things to do. But hey, Pete, love your good vibes and how musical your demos are. Thank you. But the Immerse Mark II. And after watching your demo, my favorite pedal ever. That is a good one. Nuniber, underappreciated by me. I need to give them more props. I said that last week, I think. It's good stuff. That's good stuff. I like this idea. I put out my album, and then for $1,000, you can take me to dinner at a restaurant of your choice. Well, we're going to Waffle House. If I got to pay you $1,000, we're going to Applebee's. I'm sorry, Shakey's, Sizzler. No, I'm not going to Sizzler, dude. I'm not going to Sizzler. Okay. YouTube audio sucks, and Pete still sounds good. I don't find it's that bad. To be honest, I found out recently, I did a little bit of research into levels on YouTube, and I realized that all my videos were getting turned down anyway, because I was like mastering everything too loud. And then it's kind of a nice realization that you don't have to push the levels super hot, because it's like minus 14 LUFS or whatever is the level on YouTube. So if you're mastering your stuff, generally speaking, it shows up as like, if it's for, you're like pushing it like modern mastering, it's like minus 8 LUFS. Well, they're turning down your stuff like 6 dB at that point to come. So I was like, oh, so I don't have to worry about this super hot level on YouTube. So I've gotten more conservative with the limiter and stuff recently. And, my point being, like, if you're putting in music on YouTube, if you make it too loud and just push into the limiter really hard and you make it super loud, then they're just seeing that track and they're normalizing it down to minus 14. So it's good info. There's some videos out there about it and stuff, and some information. You just need to put a loudness meter at the end of your, chain on your master bus and look at what you're at. If it's at minus 13 or 12 or whatever, it's fine. It'll get turned down a dB or two. It won't even be. It doesn't seem to be super detrimental to, like, even if it's getting turned down 4 or 5 dB. I haven't noticed like, oh, my tracks sound like shit compared to like what I did in the studio. That was never a thing. But I'm just like, well, why slam into a limiter and limit my dynamic range? There's no point if it's going to get turned down anyway. So you may or may not notice my mixes might sound a little more dynamic than they used to. Yeah. Michelle says, I found out about you through pedal videos and really enjoyed your perspective. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's that's all. It's just another way to meet folks. So Zed says, so set Ozo to 14. Yeah, LUFS or whatever. I think that's how it's just I don't know what that LUFS, LUFS. Yeah, minus 14, I believe, is the. I generally, I'll let it go a little higher now, but I used to be. You can watch some videos about this stuff and you'll see where people actually uploaded versions of their song to YouTube with, like, say 4 different level settings, and then they play them back and you can see they're all the same. So they'll do them at like minus 8 and minus 10 and minus 12 and then minus 14. They all sound the same coming out of YouTube. So they're getting turned down by the powers that be, by the Googles. And but you check it out before you take my word for it, and then decide what to do with your mastering, and maybe do some experiments, your own uploading, and you'll hear. At that point, if you're putting out music on YouTube, or if you're doing, you might want to master your track for YouTube, like, so that your stuff isn't getting normalized, and then do another mastering level for release to streaming and stuff. But I don't know if Spotify and iTunes and stuff, they might do normalizing. I'm not sure. I haven't even looked into that. It's just stuff I haven't thought about, but oh, brother. This is a good question. It's a geeky question, but it's a good one, and I appreciate it. Any hints on how to connect Eventide micro-pitch series parallel with mixer or not? You just got to try it and see what you think. You can use it in an effect loop of an amp in mono, and it'll do its thing. It's not quite as cool as the stereo thing. The classic way to me to use it is always, at least the way that I think about that effect is in stereo, with the dry in the center, and then the nut plus minus 9 or plus 5 or plus 8 or whatever you decide on, minus 8 on either side. And so the equivalent of that with a guitar rig would have to be wet, dry, wet. So you can do it in stereo too with 2 amps. So, come out of the effects send of your main tone head, effects send out to the micro pitch and mono, stereo returns come out, 1 to that same head back to the return, and then 1 to another amp into the return. Hard pan, mix in the micro pitch to where you want, but just know that there's no dry path, I guess, in the micro pitch pedal. It's always, it's got running through the DSP or whatever. So, which is no big deal, but you can try it, see what you think, see if you notice a difference if you run, center dry cabinet out to a mixer. The classic Eddie Van Halen way was, using a mixer, and you take the tap off the main tone head, run out into the, plug the amp right into the center dry cabinet, and then you run the line out into the mixer, and then the mixer sends out to the micro pitch, which is set 100% wet, plus minus 9. You blend that in with some dry in the outside cabinet. So that's how that was done. There's no right or wrong, but yeah. Aaron says, I just listened to your Pete Thorn 2 album on Spotify. Seriously killer, a bit like an aggressive Satch style. Thanks, man. He was an influence on me. There's no doubt, and he's had a great long run of a career. And, and I really admire him. What's my favorite rock-based film? God, there's so many. I mean, I always mention It Might Get Loud just for the guitar aspect. I love that. The whole idea of getting 3 guitar players together. I'd love to see a sequel with like Jeff Beck or something. And, it would be great to see Eddie Van Halen in a show like that, but I guess you could have wouldn't it be interesting to have like I don't know. I mean, who would be the players now? You'd have to pick like an Yvette Young and Yvette Young and maybe like a Satriani and Jeff Beck. There you go. There's your 3, like sort of like 80s, 90s, 2000s, and then super modern player. I don't know. That'd be neat. Other rock movies. I mean, I always like Song Remains the Same. Those are the ones that are coming to mind right now. I love the Zeppelin, the whole How the West Was Won thing. Is that what they called the live stuff too? But the box set with all the different shows and all that, that was really cool. And the mixes were great. I think it was Kevin Shirley that mixed it. It was cool. Really good mix. Spinal Tap. Yeah, Spinal Tap's a classic. People are saying Spinal Tap. ZZ Top film on Netflix is great. It is. It's really good. I enjoyed that too because I was a big ZZ Top fan growing up. They're super cool original band. And I'll wrap up on this because I should go. But one thing about ZZ Top, I have a hard time thinking of another band that's been around so long that has all original members, right? Is there anybody else I'm missing that still has original members that's been around as long as ZZ Top? Because we're talking about 1969, 1970, right? It's amazing, and it's just those 3 guys still. It's incredible. I mean, U2 is one, but they weren't around till late 70s. It's a little bit different era when they started. So there's not another band that's got original members that's been around that long that I can think of. Anybody think of one? The Story of Anvil. That's a great movie. It's a great movie. I loved it. Yeah. It's just that singer, man. I mean, there's a lot of heart in that movie and also a little bit of insanity, right? And the drummer, and he's a funny guy, and yeah, it's a good movie. It's a good watch if you haven't seen it. Live Without a Net. That's a great concert movie for sure. I think they're saying rock-based movie, like could be Spinal Tap, doesn't have to be concert movie. But yeah, that's a great. I guess I said Song Remains the Same. Yeah, so you're right. That's a cool one for sure. Have you ever listened to Toronto-based Metalwood? If you listen to jazz, I have not. I haven't heard that. I have not heard them. Almost Famous is cool. Sound City's cool for sure. Some great names, great movies that you guys are mentioning here for sure. Yeah. Another State of Mind, Social D. That's interesting. I'd like to see that. I used to be in a band with a drummer that played with Social D for a while. I wonder if he's in the movie. That micro pitch video was amazing. Thank you. Rush came out after 3 years after ZZ Top, but it's close. Yeah, but I mean, Rush hasn't been around since 2015. I mean, ZZ Top's still together. They're still doing stuff. It's crazy. They win. Longest. Pretty wild. Hardcore Logo. I never saw that. I know it's crazy. It's Canadian. I know it's illegal. I should have seen it, but Walk Hard. That's good. That's a good one. What was the movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga? That was great. Is that Walk Hard? No, Walk Hard's the Johnny Cash movie with Joaquin, right? That's a great one too. But what was the movie called with Bradley Cooper? And that was good. I liked it. I thought it was great. Lady Gaga was awesome in that. It's sad as hell, but it was good. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Len Campbell documentary was good and sad. But great. I'm just reading through all your choices here. Kids are all right. I kind of like the Who movies. I was a big Who fan. I mean, I'm still a big Who fan, but I'm not like the hugest fan of the movies for whatever reason. I don't know. So it's just me. I should watch them again and really commit and go, come on, get into this. You love the Who. How can you not, be a fan of these movies? Kiss Meets the Phantom. Arthur for the win. If you've never seen Kiss Meets the Phantom, just go put it on right now and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If nobody follows Paul Stanley on Twitter, you should, because he's a great chef, and he puts up these awesome videos of the meals he makes every night, and I'm so blown away. But he makes me want to learn how to cook better. But anyway, Kiss Meets the Phantom, maybe one of the worst movies ever made, and that makes it one of the best. So, in my mind, Kiss Meets the Phantom's right up there with Showgirls. Not a rock movie, but Showgirls. Come on, Showgirls is... Go watch Kiss Meets the Phantom in the park and then put on Showgirls. And if you make it through the rest of the day without needing to drink heavily, then you've got my respect. And on that note, I'm going to go. And this has been really fun. And maybe I'll do this again with the Beatles, because it's nice doing this here. It's just easy. And it's a little hard on my back, but maybe I'll get a better chair situation going. As always, I appreciate you guys so much. Gaga and Cooper was a Star is Born, right? Star is Born remake. And that's right. It was a remake, but good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. All right. You guys are the best. Have a great rest of your Sunday, rest of your weekend. And thank you once again. And lots of videos coming this week. I got a lot of work to do, so I got to go to the studio now. And whether I got internet or not, I got to work. Take care, everybody. Over and out.